countless lightning beasts came flying out of the heavens. All of them were 300 meters long and wrapped in lightning. Now, they collapsed on everyone within the heavenly tribulation. As a result, a war instantly erupted, and all the demonic beasts started battling the lightning beasts. However, the latter was very powerful. An attack from them could directly smash apart ordinary experts of the demonic beasts. Hence, the demonic beasts instantly panicked and fled, having their stronger experts face them. Only first-rate experts were able to block these lightning beasts. After the lightning beasts were killed, they transformed into lightning runes that were several times stronger than before. Moreover, those runes were able to quickly increase the power of their physical bodies. Hence, these experts grew even more excited. As they killed the lightning beasts, some of the weaker experts managed to help and launch their attacks, while the weakest at the very bottom could only absorb the leftover runes that slipped through the others. However, a few thousand experts at the very core didn't move at all. They kept a close eye on Long Chen, as these lightning beasts didn't make them worried at all. They were only worried about Long Chen running away. Ultimately, what they wanted was the heavenly Tao mark in his body. If even the heavenly tribulation had such benefits, then the heavenly Tao mark must be way more valuable. This heavenly Tao mark could be split into 16 portions. But once Long Chen was slain, it would become a masterless object, and they would have a chance to obtain it. It would be up to whose luck was better. When the lightning beasts approached them, these experts would casually slay them. These experts were the top existences here. Even if they couldn't beat the 8th prince, Wu Ying, and the others, they were only one slight level below them. So, these lightning beasts were unable to threaten them. In the distance, Lei Yuner led the flying beast race's experts through a slaughter on the outer edges. As a master of Thunder Force, Lei Yuner killed countless lightning beasts with every wave of her hand. After they were killed, they transformed into runes and flowed down until every member of the flying beast race managed to absorb a portion. But as Lei Yuner and the other top experts of their flying beast race slaughtered the lightning beasts, they didn't absorb the runes. They left them to the weaker members of their races. After killing and killing, Lei Yuner started to feel that something was wrong. These lightning beasts had started off at the early stage of the Divine Lord realm. But in just a few breaths' time, the new lightning beasts were bordering the mid-stage. After a bit more time, they reached the late stage. When their power reached this stage, the ones following Lei Yuner in slaying them were starting to find it taxing. Lei Yuner looked toward the core of the heavenly tribulation. Things were in chaos there. As the lightning beasts grew stronger, fewer and fewer people were capable of fighting them. Those first-rate experts no longer had the ability to protect others. The weaklings were quickly killed. They were completely unable to resist those powerful lightning beasts. In the chaos, countless experts tried to flee to the outer edges. While it was a nice thought, they had forgotten one thing. Just how big was the scope of Long Chen's tribulation? Being in the core, they were unable to pass through this massive tribulation and escape. So, in just a moment, they were drowned by the lightning beasts. We can't endure this heavenly tribulation. Please bring us out. I'm begging you. Some of the weaklings began to plead with the stronger members of their race for aid. However, those experts could barely protect themselves. They didn't have the power to protect these weaklings as well within the endless tide of lightning beasts. As for the peak experts that still possessed the power to bring them out, they were intent on keeping an eye on Long Chen, ignoring everyone else. In the end, emotional ties between demonic beasts were not very strong. Even direct members of their families weren't that close to them, as they only cared about power. When it came to their children, if the latter were weak, they wouldn't care about their life and death. They were only concerned about their powerful descendants. Thus, the pleading of the weaker members of their race fell on deaf ears. In front of profit and opportunity, the lives of weak members of their race were as worthless as blades of grass to them. They were unwilling to lose the chance of obtaining the heavenly Tao mark to save these weaklings. Thus, the cries of the weak gradually vanished as they were slain. Only the strong members of a race could continue and lead the race, changing the fate of an entire race. The weak were meaningless. Moreover, no one would stand from the angle of a virtuous saint to criticize others here. This was the attitude of the demonic beast race. Now, Lei Yuner and Ing Bakong knew why Long Chen had told them to leave the core region in advance. It was to give the weaker members of their race a way out. Ing Bakong watched as the members of his race were killed by the lightning beasts. He didn't know what he felt inside, but there was also nothing he could do. These people wouldn't know who was a good person and who was a bad person until death came for them. Lei Yuner continued to lead her people through the outer edge. Here, the tribulation was slightly weaker than at the core, so she was still in control. After another half an incense stick's worth of time, Lei Yuner was shocked to find that the lightning beasts had gradually leaped in power to the level of an immortal king. Furthermore, due to being manifestations of lightning, their attacks were sharp and fierce. They might be even more destructive than an ordinary immortal king expert. It had only been an incense stick's worth of time from the start, but Long Chen's heavenly tribulation had increased in power to such a level. Lei Yuner was shocked. She had never seen such a terrifying tribulation before. Most people would have at least 6 hours of Divine Lord tribulation. Although the demonic beast race's tribulation was slightly stronger than the human race's and there was a bit of time discrepancy, the rhythm of the tribulations was almost the same everywhere. It always went from weak to strong. However, in just an incense stick's worth of time, Long Chen's tribulation had reached such a terrifying level. Would what was coming up later even be survivable? The experts at the core region were constantly being cut down. By this point in time, almost half of them had been killed. The experts watching from outside the Divine Lord Immortal realm grew antsy. Although having the weak be washed away was a natural law and they all hoped that after the tribulation, the elites amongst the elites of their race would be able to reveal themselves, this rate of elimination was far too bloody. Some of the weaker races in particular were worried. Even their top geniuses would only be considered average in a battle of this scale. The first ones to die were the disciples of those weaker races. Watching as they died, their seniors started to feel unwell. "Hall Master, can you?" "No, I cannot. None of us can interfere with what is happening inside the Divine Lord Immortal realm. Otherwise, do you think that we would let Long Chen undergo tribulation inside?" said the Hall Master coldly. Hearing that, those people fell silent, their hearts burning painfully. None of them could do anything. On the other hand, the strongest races were calmer and even felt a bit excited. This tribulation was causing their people to benefit the most. At this moment, Long Chen continued to stand there indifferently, like an emotionless statue. Since he was surrounded by demonic beasts, those lightning beasts were unable to reach him before being slain. Up until now, Long Chen had not absorbed a single speck of thunder force from this tribulation. But he wasn't worried at all. The thunder force filling the air was all absorbed by the 8th prince, Wu Ying, and the others before it could reach him. They knew that as long as Long Chen didn't get to absorb any thunder force, he would be unable to advance. That was why none of them was worried about him fully merging with the heavenly Tao mark. They felt that the one that should be worried was Long Chen. But Long Chen looked at them like they were idiots. He was patiently waiting. After an hour, the lightning beasts finally stopped falling. Seeing this, the experts that had been about to run out of energy were delighted. Just as they thought that the tribulation was on the verge of ending, 4 lightning gates appeared within the tribulation clouds. As the lightning gates slowly opened, a dark and gloomy aura instantly enveloped the entire world. Sinister ghost chi filled the world as though the gates of hell had opened. Following that, countless corpses in ancient clothes appeared, their bodies almost eroded to nothing. When Long Chen saw those figures, his heart pounded wildly. Weren't those the ancient corpses that he had seen on the ghost ship when crossing the Devil Sea? Was this because of karma? Was this karma also included in his tribulation? Legend had it that those that saw a ghost ship had ill fortune befall them, but Long Chen had actually gone onto a ghost ship. Because of it, now the ghost ship's ancient corpses appeared in his heavenly tribulation. Long Chen was shocked, but everyone else was even more shocked. How could ancient corpses appear in a heavenly tribulation? Furthermore, these corpses possessed sinister ghost chi. That was not in accordance with the heavenly Taos, no? Shrink the encirclement and fight them together. This expert had just shouted when those ancient corpses came flying out of the lightning gates with their weapons, attacking. Boom. An expert of the mammoth divine elephant race was the first to strike them. As a result, he was simply sent flying by a stroke of the ancient corpse's sword. After that, another sword from an ancient corpse swept out, breaking the void and cutting that expert of the mammoth divine elephant race in two. What? Everyone was shocked. That person was a first-rate expert. Although he couldn't compare to the 8th prince, he still had a certain amount of prestige within the mammoth divine elephant race. No one had expected him to be slain in an instant. These ancient corpses' attacks were sharp, and they still had their techniques from when they were alive. In his carelessness, that expert was instantly killed. The ancient corpses killed everyone on sight. Moreover, all of them seemed to be experienced warriors with refined skills. In just the first exchange, a wave of the demonic beast race's experts collapsed. The 8th prince, Wu Ying, and the others' expressions finally changed. Before this, they didn't care about the deaths of those people. One reason was that the ones dying were from the weaker demonic beast races. The other reason was it was simply the natural elimination of the weak. It wasn't a big deal to them. After the dirt was washed away, it would leave only the gold. However, it was different now. The attack power of these ancient corpses was terrifying. If they still didn't interfere, these elite disciples would also be slain. Other than the 16 of us, everyone else, go deal with them, shouted the 8th prince. Thousands of experts had been eyeing Long Chen and preparing to test their luck. However, the situation had changed and the 8th prince had even given them an order. So, they helplessly turned to the ancient corpses. These thousands of experts were very powerful existences. But when they started fighting these ancient corpses, they were shocked to find that the latter was even stronger than they had expected. Their experience techniques couldn't be broken. Even with them joining in, countless experts continued to be slain. As a result, the number of people at the core rapidly fell. As for the 4 lightning gates, they were still open, and more ancient corpses continued to come out. They seemed endless. In the distance, Lei Yuner also ran into danger. Fortunately, they were at the very edge and there were far fewer ancient corpses here. With Lei Yuner personally dealing with them, things were still manageable. When those ancient corpses were slain, they also transformed into multicolored lightning runes. Moreover, when the runes fell onto Lei Yuner, she sensed her physical body growing in power crazily. Due to this, she began fighting even harder. The experts behind her also benefited from her. They did their best to absorb those runes to strengthen themselves. Suddenly, one of them coughed up blood, and cracks appeared throughout his body. He had reached his limit. If he continued to absorb more lightning runes, his body would explode. Princess, thank you for everything. My Swift's race swears to follow the Lightning Falcon race to the death. That expert immediately retreated after reaching his limit. After going outside of the range of the tribulation, his aura suddenly grew explosively. He finally finished advancing to the Divine Lord realm. At that moment, a light flashed out of his tablet, enveloping him and bringing him away. Once a person finished advancing to the Divine Lord realm in the Divine Lord Immortal realm, their tablets would automatically activate and bring them out. These people's tribulations had all been absorbed by Long Chen. Hence, only once they left his tribulation would the heavenly Daos silently accept that they had finished undergoing tribulation. Following that one person, more and more experts of the flying beast race thanked Lei Yuner and left, having reached their limit. They were extremely grateful to her. If she hadn't summoned them here, they would have all died within the heavenly tribulation. Seeing those famous experts at the core being slain in droves by the ancient corpses, they knew that their lives had been given to them by Lei Yuner. Not only could they keep their lives, but their physical bodies had also been strengthened to the limit. This was a huge opportunity that had changed their fates. In just a few breaths' time, only a few thousand people remained by Lei Yuner's side. The runes that came from killing the ancient corpses were so powerful that just absorbing a few was enough for these experts to reach their limits. Fortunately, these thousands of experts were all elites, so they continued to absorb a few more runes. In just a bit, Bakong also reached his limit. And just like everyone else, he wanted to absorb a bit more, only to cough up blood. He helplessly left, knowing that his potential couldn't compare to Lei Yunus. He was about the same as the other experts. More and more people continued to leave. Lei Yuna was killing so many ancient corpses that they quickly reached their limits. After thanking Lei Yuna, they left. In the end, only Lei Yuna was left. After that, with a laugh, she charged into the core. The flying beast race's experts reappeared in the plaza. Thereafter, the senior experts of the demonic beast race cried out in shock when they saw them in person. These disciples that had just finished their tribulations were shockingly powerful now. Their auras and physical bodies were several times stronger than previous generations who came out of the Divine Lord Immortal realm. No one could believe it. This enormous heavenly tribulation could completely transform a person. All the flying beast race's senior experts were in high spirits upon seeing their descendants return with such powerful auras. These old fellows almost started dancing in excitement. The heart of the Lightning Falcon race's leader was pounding emotionally as he stared at the hundreds of thousands of new elites of his Lightning Falcon race. Their race had truly profited this time, so he felt like he had wrongly blamed Long Chen. However, he was quite smart to not express too much joy. He also cast a glance at the other old fellows of the demonic beast races. Other than their flying beast race, all the other old fellows in the plaza had dark expressions. Their disciples were either dead or bitterly hanging on inside of the tribulation. Cheering at this time wasn't very appropriate. Hence, some of the old fellows hastily suppressed their emotions, as well as told their people to calm down. After that, they all stared into the Divine Lord Immortal realm. There were endless ancient corpses and fewer demonic beasts inside. They numbered only a tenth now and were still falling, unable to stop the terrifying army of ancient corpses. Standing at the very center of the heavenly tribulation, Long Chen didn't have the slightest speck of lightning around him. After staring at the eighth prince and the others, he finally smiled mockingly. "Even if you throw your lives away to protect me, I won't thank you." Long Chen wasn't wrong. The demonic beast race's experts were going all out against the ancient corpses and losing their lives. On the surface, it really was like they were throwing their lives away just to protect him. The eighth prince narrowed his eyes and coldly said, "You want to anger us? You're too naive. This heavenly tribulation is the good fortune of the heavens. It is your heavenly tribulation, but you haven't obtained a single benefit from it. Are you not worried?" The eighth prince was absorbing countless lightning runes from the air. He could clearly feel their monstrous tempering power, so he was confident in his deduction. As long as they prevented Long Chen from absorbing these runes, then when the heavenly tribulation was over, they could kill him and take all the benefits. All of Long Chen's efforts would be for them. Naive? Long Chen laughed. Just then, an ancient corpse passed through their encirclement and stabbed a sword right at Long Chen's back. Without looking back, Long Chen swung his hand, slapping that ancient corpse in the face. Boom! The ancient corpse smashed into the ground, causing an explosion that left a giant hole in the earth. When that hole appeared, the Hall Master and Assistant Hall Masters of the Sacred Pill Hall twitched. "It's just a coincidence. Don't worry," transmitted the Hall Master. But the uneasy feeling he felt intensified. There was a fist-sized bone fragment within that large hole. It was covered in dirt. Without looking closely, it wasn't even noticeable. The reason that the Hall Master twitched was because that bone fragment was one of the formation runes binding the core of the star field. This bone fragment was buried in the earth and protected by a formation. Let alone Long Chen, not even a world king could extract it. However, the random ancient corpse that Long Chen killed actually exposed it. These three were unable to figure out what had just happened. The worst-case scenario that worried them the most was that if those bone fragments were broken, then the power of the core of the star field would erupt. At that time, let alone the Divine Lord Immortal realm, even the entire auspicious Cloud Prefecture would be destroyed without a trace. Everyone here would die. They could only hope that it was a coincidence. But they were now worried that someone would accidentally destroy that bone fragment. If that was the case, they would really be doomed. Without realizing it, sweat dripped down the Hall Master's forehead. Inside the Divine Lord Immortal realm, Long Chen acted like nothing had happened at all. He didn't even glance at that bone fragment and indifferently looked at the 8th prince. It seems that you still haven't noticed just what kind of person you have provoked. I don't want to waste more time. After that, Long Chen flicked a finger, and a flash of fire soared into the heavens. It was a thumb-sized flame lotus. Boom! The flame lotus exploded within the tribulation clouds. Following that, the tribulation clouds roiled, and terrifying heavenly might crashed down. Long Chen's flame lotus had infuriated the heavenly tribulation. It was like he had slapped a slumbering beast, waking it up in a fury. After that, the endless tribulation clouds began to condense. As the clouds shrank, the auras of those ancient corpses grew from the early Immortal King realm to the late Immortal King realm. Their power soared, and their attacks grew even sharper. Moreover, they seemed to have gained intelligence. Previously, they were only attacking instinctively. But now, they were attacking and defending as if they were alive. As they became incomparably experienced warriors, the defensive line of the demonic beasts, which had been barely holding on, instantly shattered. Countless people died to those ancient corpses. 8th Prince, Princess Wuong, Golden Horned Master, please save us. Some people begged for aid, only to be slain before they finished begging. There were now no more than 10 million demonic beasts left, but ancient corpses were still descending from the 4 gates. Long Chen smiled. That was right. The ancient corpses he had encountered on the ghost ship possessed this kind of aura. They had now been manifested inside his heavenly tribulation, displaying terrifying killing power. The 8th prince's expression finally changed. There were too many ancient corpses. If this continued, then while the 16 of them would be fine, the elites of the various races would be exterminated. They couldn't allow such a thing. If these elites were lost, it would be a huge loss to their races. Fine, let's not waste any time. I'll kill you right now, shouted the 8th prince, and his golden spear once more appeared in his hand. Upon seeing this, Long Chen's calm indifference vanished and killing intent surged out of him. It was this spear that had killed the 9-star heir. Go help our people. His life is mine, shouted the 8th prince at Wu Ying and the others. Don't trouble yourselves. Just as Wu Ying and the others were about to go, Long Chen's voice rang out, sending a chill down their spines. When they looked back at him, they saw a vein throbbing on his forehead, and his hair was flying wildly. The killing intent in his eyes was chilling, like a devil king had descended. Long Chen's voice instantly became hoarse, and it resounded throughout heaven and earth like it came from the depths of hell. It made people shiver. Divine ring. Battle armor. The next moment, the void shattered and the dome of the heavens quivered. When Long Chen's divine ring appeared, countless stars could be seen flowing inside of it, and a pillar of light soared to the heavens. Even the tribulation clouds quivered uneasily. The 4 gates suddenly became covered in cracks. Boom. Seemingly suffering under the pressure of some terrifying power, the 4 gates finally reached their limit and exploded. In that instant, the ancient corpses that were slaughtering the demonic beasts also exploded, transforming into lightning runes. The demonic beasts were delighted. Just as they were prepared to absorb the lightning runes, before they could enjoy this harvest, black swords came raining down from the heavens. The physical bodies that these demonic beasts were so proud of were as weak as tofu in front of these black swords. No! Save me! The black lightning swords contained endless destructive power, and they mercilessly harvested their lives. The shouts for aid were useless, as even the 8th prince, Wu Ying, and the others were shocked and powerless to look after the others. In just an instant, only a few hundred people remained out of 10 million experts. Seeing this scene, the senior experts in the plaza roared in fury. The slain experts were the future pillars of their races. Hence, these seniors were filled with hatred and wanted to charge into the Divine Lord Immortal realm right this instant to slay Long Chen. Kill him together. The 8th prince was shocked. That shock quickly transformed into rage, and he shot toward Long Chen. The 8th prince, Wu Ying, and the others summoned their manifestations and activated their bloodlines. As a result, Pillars of light soared into the heavens. Thereafter, they took out their weapons and charged at Long Chen. They had been waiting a long time for this moment, as they wanted Long Chen's heavenly Dao mark. So, they instantly launched a thunderous attack. 16 peak experts attacked at once, and their combined forces caused the entire Divine Lord Immortal realm to shake. Even a world king wouldn't dare to receive their attacks. In front of their all-out attacks, Long Chen raised his head and roared. His dragon scales shone brightly. As divine light poured into his fist, he unleashed a single punch. What the 8th prince and the others didn't expect was that Lei Yuner had also joined in, and her lightning spear stabbed toward Long Chen. Suddenly, the void shuddered and a screen of light appeared between the two sides. It was like a giant mirror, and it had 108 bone fragments embedded on it. Every bone fragment contained a rune. Seeing this scene, the Hall Master cried out in shock. Impossible! Those bone fragments were the core formation of the Divine Lord Immortal realm. When just a single one was exposed, he had been worried enough. Now, so many had appeared. If they were crushed, the entire formation would be destroyed. In fact, even the entire auspicious cloud prefecture would be wiped out. The core of the formation had been taken out. Just who in the world possessed that ability? Boom. Long Chen, Lei Yuner, the 8th prince, Wu Ying, and the others' attacks all smashed into the mirror. The mirror quivered after receiving all their attacks. Following that, cracks covered the bone fragments, and the mirror suddenly shattered. The 8th prince and the others were dumbfounded. They didn't know what was going on. If this mirror was Long Chen's, he wouldn't have attacked it. No. I have accomplished my mission. I'm going to start a slaughter now, said Long Chen, looking at the broken mirror. Everything had gone according to plan. The core of the Divine Lord Immortal realm had to be destroyed. However, it couldn't be destroyed with just one person's power, or the energy imbalance would cause the energy of the integral Heaven Star Field's core that had been extracted to this place to explode. Even the Protector Spirit couldn't control such an explosion. That was why Long Chen needed to borrow the power of many people. Adding on the cooperation of the Protector Spirit, the core of the formation was smoothly destroyed. Thereafter, she regained her freedom. Thank you. I know I can't advise you, but I definitely will not go back on my word. Don't worry about that. The woman's voice rang out once more. Just as she said this, space twisted and the world collapsed. Everyone was shocked to find that they couldn't move. The experts in the plaza were horrified. They saw cracks cover the formation. And from the cracks, waves of destructive aura came through. Run! It was unknown who shouted first, but there was no need for this shout. Everyone already fled like they had seen a ghost. The world kings ran faster than anyone else. They sensed death from the broken formation. The Divine Lord Immortal realm was about to break, and Long Chen and the others were about to appear before them again. To make things worse, the heavenly tribulation would follow him. If they hadn't escaped the range of the heavenly tribulation by then, once it locked onto them, this tribulation would become a world king's tribulation. Ignoring whether or not they could endure that, everyone below the world king realm would be instantly killed. Furthermore, the aura of death coming from this heavenly tribulation was even more terrifying than their tribulations back in the day. It was truly ominous. It was these old fellows that had lived the longest that were most afraid of death. The race leaders directly summoned their true forms and brought their people away. At this moment, the advantage of the flying beast race was revealed. The lightning falcon race was the fastest, and they instantly fled out of the auspicious cloud prefecture city. Just then, the barrier around the plaza exploded. As a result, a terrifying power ravaged the surroundings, and countless buildings were destroyed. Lightning flowed like seawater, filling the world with destructive aura. To make things worse, astral winds ravaged the earth, and black tribulation clouds rapidly spread across the heavens. The entire auspicious cloud prefecture was covered by them. Those world kings felt a burst of fear. Fortunately, they had fled quickly. Only now that they personally sensed the heavenly tribulation's aura did they understand just how terrifying it was. This is no heavenly tribulation. This is heavenly punishment. A world king cried out in shock. This heavenly tribulation was entirely destructive power without the slightest trace of life energy. The auspicious cloud trading company. Another startled cry rang out. The heavenly tribulation had destroyed the auspicious cloud trading company. People's expressions contorted in pain just thinking about the countless treasures inside. However, it wasn't just the auspicious cloud trading company. Countless buildings were also destroyed by the black lightning swords. The black swords were incomparably sharp and cut through the buildings like mud. Furthermore, this place had been peaceful for too long. The runes on those buildings were for extending the lifespan on the buildings, not increasing their defensive power. It was because no one dared to run amok here. Thus, the entire auspicious cloud prefecture collapsed like an earthen tile. Even the demonic beasts felt aggrieved as they watched this, let alone the sacred pill hall's people. At this moment, the void exploded. Long Chen and the others appeared at the heart of the heavenly tribulation. Long Chen then looked up at the sky and coldly said, "What a familiar feeling." The Divine Lord Immortal realm had been destroyed, so they were sent back out to the auspicious cloud prefecture. When they came out, the heavenly tribulation's aura also changed. To Long Chen, the previous heavenly tribulation was like calm lake water, warm and peaceful. But now, it was a raging sea, and its huge waves contained destructive power. It was truly the heavenly tribulation that he knew. The Divine Lord Immortal realm had had a supreme grand formation controlling it. Now that it had been destroyed, the heavenly tribulation returned to its normal appearance. As for the sacred pill hall's grand formation that had locked down the entire auspicious cloud prefecture, due to the people fleeing, they had to shut it down. Once they fled, the heavenly tribulation erupted and they were no longer able to activate it. So, they could only watch as the work of millions of years was destroyed just like this. The hearts of the sacred pill hall's people were dripping with blood. Kill Long Chen. Whoever kills him will have their entire race be blessed with free medicinal pills from the sacred pill hall for their lifetime, shouted the hall master. Hearing that, everyone was moved. It had to be known that the greatest expense of every race was medicinal pills. Now, anyone who killed Long Chen would get a lifetime supply of pills? This offer was truly attractive. However, in the heavenly tribulation, there were only 18 people. Other than the 8th prince, Wu Ying and the others, there were only Lei Yuner and Long Chen. Yuner, as the race leader, I order you to not participate in their battle, shouted the leader of the Lightning Falcon race. Lei Yuner was startled by her race leader's order. She didn't know what had happened, but she didn't believe his words. Before this, the race leader had clearly been in full support of her action. No, I refuse. Lei Yuner's stubborn nature flared. Ignoring his words, she stood by Long Chen's side. However, just at that moment, a lightning spear pierced her chest. Lei Yuner couldn't believe it. That was because the one that stabbed her was Long Chen. She then looked at Long Chen. Feeling the pain in her chest, feeling her life rapidly flowing away, her voice quivered. But, don't you want to have children with me? Sorry, but I never wanted to have children with you. I was only using you. Due to helping me enter the Divine Lord Immortal realm, I'll leave you with an intact corpse, said Long Chen frostily. Lei Yuner coughed up blood. With a swing of Long Chen's spear, she was sent flying out of the heavenly tribulation. The leader of the Lightning Falcon race was shocked and enraged by this turn of events. Long Chen, you bastard, how dare you repay her kindness this way? Just wait, I will tear you into a million pieces. He immediately moved to catch Lei Yuner's body. Her aura had vanished, and even her spiritual fluctuations were gone. Seeing this, he coughed up blood from the torrent of emotions. Quick, use the bloodline soul summoning art. Try to save her, shouted an elder of the Lightning Falcon race. This elder was the previous leader of the Lightning Falcon race. He was extremely old, but he was still recognized as someone of great virtue and prestige. Now, hundreds of thousands of experts of the Lightning Falcon race used their bloodline power to activate a secret art, trying to save Lei Yuner's life. On the other hand, the Hall Master only glanced at Lei Yuner once before ignoring their efforts. With his spiritual strength, he could easily tell that the flame of her soul in her head was gone. She was already dead, so their efforts were futile. Bastard, I'll avenge Yuna. The race leader even began to weep. He was aware of just how dismal their chances of saving her were. Yuna isn't dead. Her soul has been sealed inside her dantian with thunder force. Longchen wouldn't kill her. He is probably trying to sever any connection we have with him so that we aren't implicated. The elder's voice rang out in the race leader's mind after he roared. This was a bloodline communication that could only be heard by those of the same race. The race leader was startled. After that, he hastily checked her dantian and found that there really was a layer of thunder force around her dantian. Through that lightning seal, he could vaguely sense her spiritual fluctuations. Don't let other people notice anything strange. Keep acting angry, urged the elder. As the Lightning Falcon race did all they could for Lei Yuner, the 8th Prince, Wu Ying, and the others surrounded Longchen. However, their expressions were rather grave now. After leaving the Divine Lord Immortal realm, the heavenly tribulation became explosive, like a sheep that had become a wild tiger. Despite the lightning swords being the same, they were several times sharper than before. Even they were having trouble dealing with these black lightning swords. They didn't dare to be careless. On the other hand, Longchen simply stood there and allowed the lightning swords to strike his body. They shattered on contact with his body, transforming into black runes that were absorbed by his body. Attack! The 8th Prince roared. His blood chi raged as his golden spear pierced toward Longchen. He started off immediately with one of his strongest attacks. Boom! Longchen also unleashed his lightning spear. When the two collided, a large expert with golden bullhorns on his head also attacked with a Vajra scepter. This was the heavenly genius from the golden barbarian bull race. Longchen shoved his spear back, blocking the Vajra scepter. After that, he twisted his body to dodge a water thorn that blew right past his cheek and cut off a strand of his hair. Just the sharp wind as it blew by left a bloody cut on Longchen's cheek. It was a silent attack with a perfect angle, the epitome of its kind of attack. It came from the water mallard race's Wu Ying. Ah, the flavor of true dragon essence blood really isn't bad. Now that you've killed that slut of the lightning falcon race, Big Sis is starting to like you. Wu Ying licked the blood on her water thorn excitedly. Just from that trace of blood, she sensed a powerful true dragon aura, and that was an irresistible allure. As Longchen was pressed back by their attacks, he condensed a lightning spear and shield to fight. These people's weapons were divine items with amazing backgrounds. On the other hand, Longchen didn't have a suitable weapon. Boom! Suddenly, the tribulation clouds changed and the gates that had been destroyed by Longchen now returned. However, this time, only 2 gates appeared. When they opened, countless life forms with sharp claws and covered in black chi came pouring out. The Black Sea's fiend spirits. As expected, you've come. Longchen instantly recognized them. These were the fiend spirits that he had encountered in the netherworld when he was forced to flee into the Black Sea. Their numbers were what was truly astonishing. If the ancient corpses before had to be counted in the tens of thousands, these fiend spirits were in the hundreds of millions. They were like 2 giant waterfalls pouring out of the sky, charging at them sinisterly. The 8th Prince and the others' expressions instantly changed. They had thought that the black swords were the final wave, but now there was another. Those fiend spirits were especially sinister. Looking at them, even world kings felt cold sweat soaking their backs. They were like ghouls from the depths of hell. They were truly terrifying. Kill him. The 8th Prince finally realized that something was wrong. Before this, they had been able to leave the heavenly tribulation. But now that these fiend spirits appeared, their path out was cut off. He felt uneasy. The others also felt that something was off. These fiend spirits were endless, and their auras were equivalent to a peak immortal king. As time passed, they would also be slain by them. End the battle quickly. This time, it was Wu Ying who attacked first. Water chi erupted out of her body, and she instantly split into 8 clones and attacked Longchen. Well said. Let us end this battle quickly. Longchen sneered. He suddenly extended his hand. Saber, come. Following his shout, countless saber wielders outside the tribulation were shocked to find their sabers quivering in their sheaths. The experts that could be here watching were the leaders of the various races or pillars of their races. Even the weakest was a late-stage immortal king. The only reason a late-stage immortal king was allowed was due to their power and prestige. There were millions of them present. Demonic beasts favored heavy weapons, so they were fond of sabers, broadswords, spears, pikes, hatchets, warhammers, etc. Amongst these experts were several hundred saber users. So, following Long Chen's cry, the sabers on their backs and waists seemed to receive some sort of summons. They quivered, seemingly expressing their loyalty to Long Chen, as if they thirsted to enter his hands. With the support of the core of the integral heaven star field, Long Chen's senses were extended, and he sensed countless sabers. So, he was calling out to them, seeing which of them was willing to fight with him. A saber then flew out of the hand of a half-step world king. Just as he grabbed it again, that saber seemed to come to life. Its edge then turned, cutting off his wrist before it flew into the heavenly tribulation. Just at this moment, 8 Wu Yings charged at Long Chen and water chi filled the air. Moreover, space twisted as if this place was the depths of a sea. The saber then entered Long Chen's hand. Ignoring the others, Long Chen thrust it at one of the Wu Yings. As a result, blood splashed. The 9-foot saber pierced through Wu Ying's chest, and the other water thorns in the hands of her clones smashed into Long Chen's body. However, they merely caused some sparks to fly out, unable to break his golden dragon armor. You think yourself smart, but your head isn't good. You decided to learn the body-splitting arts of the human race. Sure, the body can be split, but can a weapon be split as well? Distinguishing which weapon is real is far easier than finding the real body, said Long Chen contemptuously. Wu Ying was simply an arrogant fool. The way she split her body was not flawed. Against demonic beasts, they truly wouldn't be able to tell which was the real one. However, with Long Chen's powerful spiritual strength, he could easily grasp the true body's blood chi and spiritual fluctuations. Even if he couldn't sense that though, the weapons of her clones were fake. She couldn't trick him regardless. Wu Ying had been full of confidence, so she hadn't expected Long Chen to break her water Dao domain with a casual blow and accurately pinpoint her true body. With the true body injured, the power of the clones plummeted to the point where they couldn't even break Long Chen's defenses. Now she was terrified. You look down on the human race, yet learn the human race's techniques. You look down on me but die to my hands. Go in peace, said Long Chen coldly. No, don't kill me. Wu Ying's body exploded. However, what killed her wasn't Long Chen but the heavenly genius of the golden barbarian bull race. He had attacked from behind Long Chen in a sneak attack, attempting to save her. However, Long Chen just flung Wu Ying's body behind him, resulting in her smashing into the Vajra scepter. As a result, she was directly blown to bits. The golden barbarian bull race's expert was shocked and enraged. It had been too late for him to even hold back his power. Don't feel bad, you'll be accompanying her. Long Chen raised his saber and then slashed it down like a bolt of lightning. After that, countless runes lit up on the saber, and a dragon roar rang out of it. Dodge! The 8th prince cried out in shock and stabbed his spear at Long Chen. He saw that the golden barbarian bull race's expert had used up his power after killing Wu Ying. Regretfully, Long Chen didn't give that golden barbarian bull any chance to dodge. Long Chen had already locked onto him, and golden light exploded along with blood mist. The golden Vajra scepter was broken by Long Chen's saber. Furthermore, the wielder was directly blown to bits. After killing him, Long Chen's saber spun through the air, perfectly blocking the 8th prince's late attempt to save his companion. After that, the 8th prince was forced back 3 steps before he managed to stabilize himself. He was shocked. He had absorbed a huge amount of thunder force, and his body was essentially fully satiated. If he left the heavenly tribulation, he would instantly become a divine lord. Despite not having made that final breakthrough, his power had increased by over 10 times. With his spear and manifestation resonating, his power was unimaginable. However, his attack just now seemed to have struck a star. Long Chen didn't stagger in the slightest. Instead, it was him who almost coughed up blood from the exchange. After blowing back the 8th prince, Long Chen didn't chase him. Instead, he slowly raised his saber for a look. The saber blade was 9 feet long, while the hilt was 1.5 feet. Its body was blood red, and its style was very ancient. Moreover, this blood color contained a sharp killing intent. This was definitely a divine weapon that had killed countless life forms. Furthermore, there were 2 Jiuli immortal characters carved into its hilt. They were 3rd-generation Jiuli characters, Minghong. The entire saber was blood red, but these 2 characters in particular were as red as fresh blood that had just come out of the body. Long Chen sensed the aura of the dragon race from these 2 characters. They were engraved with dragon blood. No wonder it feels so familiar. Staring at this saber, Long Chen smiled. The saber felt heavy in his hand. It perfectly suited his current power. Furthermore, with its length, it felt very comfortable to use. Most importantly, this Minghong saber's item spirit felt extremely close to Long Chen. It was a top-grade king item. This half-step world king of the demonic beast race had obtained it countless years ago. He had been carrying it on his back all this time but had never used it. That was because he had never managed to subdue the dragon will on it. The reason he had carried it on his back all day long was a display of his status. He would occasionally show it off to others, showing others that he was a stunning figure capable of controlling a weapon with a dragon soul. However, never in his wildest dreams would he have imagined that this saber would actually fly toward Long Chen. Furthermore, it had even cut off his hand. Most likely, this fellow was so enraged he would cough up blood. Ever since losing Dragonbone Evil Moon, Long Chen had never felt so accustomed to a saber, the feeling of man and saber being one. He finally had a companion that could fight alongside him again. Just then, countless fiend spirits pounced on him. Although they were imitations made out of lightning, they appeared the exact same as when he saw them in the netherworld. With them filling the battlefield, the 8th prince and the others had no choice but to fight them as well as defend against Long Chen. Long Chen's saber then swept out and a dragon cry rang out once more. Everything in his way instantly vanished. Those fiend spirits turned into lightning runes with no suspense at all. Furthermore, those lightning runes disappeared as soon as they appeared, as if they were silently absorbed by something. The old feeling is finally back. At this moment, battle intent burned in Long Chen's eyes excitedly. He suddenly raised his saber. Thereafter, a giant saber image pierced the tribulation clouds, and the entire world shuddered. A will to split apart heaven and earth soared, causing the 9 heavens to change color. It was a will that caused gods and devils to quiver. Split the heavens. In front of countless stunned gazes, a giant blade cleaved apart the tribulation clouds and mercilessly slashed down upon the 8th prince and the others. The Minghong saber is a legendary sword of Chinese mythology. The legend does not seem relevant at the moment, but to summarize, when the Yellow Emperor Xian Yuan forged his golden sword, there were still some leftover materials in the furnace. The high heat melted those materials, and they took the form of a saber at the bottom of the furnace after cooling off. The Yellow Emperor thought that its saber will was too strong, and it would consume anyone who tried to use it. Worried about it falling into the mortal world, he chose to destroy it. However, it transformed into a red skylark and flew off, vanishing amongst the clouds. Take out the Elephant Emperor War Chariot. When the mammoth divine elephant race's leader saw that giant saber image, his expression completely changed, and he shouted at the 8th prince. This attack terrified even world kings. They were stunned that someone who was still in the middle of their divine lord tribulation would be able to unleash such a terrifying attack. Boom! The divine saber destroyed laws and shattered Daos. The tribulation clouds filling the sky were cleanly cut apart. However, there was no need for the mammoth divine elephant race leader's warning. The 8th prince had instantly summoned the Elephant Emperor War Chariot the moment Long Chen raised his saber, because he sensed that at this moment, only it could possibly save his life. The saber image then smashed into the war chariot, and the chariot shuddered intensely. After that, divine light radiated out of the chariot, blasting the fiend's spirits around it apart. Everything in the surroundings was directly turned to dust. This was a shocking blow, one that caused the world to change color. Despite it still being the first form of Split the Heavens, its power was dozens of times greater now. One reason was because Long Chen's realm had increased, but the other reason was that he finally had a perfect divine weapon. Another aspect was that he had been bestowed with the heavenly Tao mark of the integral heaven star field, which allowed him to grow closer to the heavenly Taos. They were willing to lend him more power. Long Chen felt completely refreshed after this attack. As for the Minghong saber in his hand, a dragon cry continued to ring out of it. It was like after encountering each other, they could finally unleash their full potential. The saber itself seemed even more excited than Long Chen. This was a divine weapon of the human race. For it to land in the hands of the demonic beast race was a waste of a treasure. After this blow, the fiend spirits were all turned into lightning runes. The war chariot rumbled. Right below it, the 8th prince's expression was exceedingly ugly. There was no way he could have blocked that attack. If it hadn't been for the Elephant Emperor war chariot, he would be dead right now. The others only barely kept their lives thanks to him, but blood was pouring out of all their orifices, and their heads were dazed. That one blow shook everyone. These demonic beasts had been unable to understand how a little four-peak youngster like Long Chen could possibly become the dean of the High Firmament Academy's 7th branch. But now they understood. Just as everyone was stunned by this attack, Long Chen once more raised the Minghong saber. In front of their dumbfounded gazes, he unleashed the same terrifying attack. It seemed that he could unleash it limitlessly without wasting time to store up energy. Boom! The war chariot radiated divine light once more. But this time, the explosion was several times stronger than the last. The war chariot shuddered and sank, almost smashing into the ground. Other than the 8th prince, everyone else had been directly blown apart by the shockwaves. As for the 8th prince, he also coughed up a mouthful of blood. This attack was even more powerful than the last, because this time, Long Chen had used the power of his stars. Long Chen's 108,000 stars had been broken and grown countless times during his tribulation. Hence, they were dozens of times stronger than before. Furthermore, the divine flames burning on top of them also grew. They gave Long Chen endless power. At this moment, specks appeared on the Minghong saber, blazing like the stars. Battle intent burned in Long Chen's eyes as he looked at the Minghong saber. This is only half of my astral power. Can you continue? The Minghong saber buzzed. After that, a dragon cry rang out and saber chi soared. It seemed that it thirsted for even more power. Boom! Just then, the Elephant Emperor war chariot whistled over. It was actually attacking Long Chen. Countless runes then lit up on it, shining like stars. Long Chen raised his saber to block it. As a result, his arms quivered, and he was sent flying like a shooting star. Long Chen smashed into a barrier and bounced off. Only then did Long Chen realize that there was one region of intact buildings within the otherwise destroyed auspicious cloud domain. This place was protected by a formation. Long Chen just happened to crash into that place, causing the barrier to appear. Long Chen then saw a statue. Lord Brahma. Long Chen's eyes instantly turned blood red. This statue was Brahma's. This was the sacred Pill Hall's holy land, and Lord Brahma's statue was here. Moreover, as this place was the inheritance land for his Tao, it was protected by faith energy, and even the heavenly tribulation was unable to harm this place. Die! The next moment, the 8th prince's furious roar rang out. Inside the Elephant Emperor war chariot, he smashed toward Long Chen. This Elephant Emperor war chariot was something only descendants of the Elephant Emperor could use. Even within the mammoth divine elephant race, only a very small portion of people were capable of using it due to their bloodline connection. Previously, in order to protect the others, the 8th prince had hidden behind the Elephant Emperor war chariot. But now, since they were all dead, he instantly entered the chariot. Here, not even a world king could harm him. With a furious roar, he charged toward Long Chen. Because he wasn't a match for Long Chen, he would use the Elephant Emperor war chariot to kill him. It was incredibly fast, and it appeared in front of Long Chen just as he bounced off of the barrier. Long Chen once more raised his saber to block, resulting in him smashing into the barrier. He was actually forcibly embedded into it. The barrier was behind him, and the Elephant Emperor war chariot was in front of him. He was caught between the two. Long Chen pushed as hard as he could, but the barrier behind him was actually soft and flexible. He didn't have a foothold to push off of. Die, you inferior human. The eighth prince suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. After that, the Elephant Emperor war chariot rumbled as if it had come alive, shaking the world. It was like an ancient beast had awoken. Now, Long Chen instantly felt like an entire starry sky was pressing down on him. Kill him! Kill him! Just then he heard countless cheers from within the barrier. Looking behind him, Long Chen saw countless experts wearing robes of the Sacred Pill Hall cheering from inside the buildings. The Sacred Pill Hall's people actually hid here. It was no wonder Long Chen hadn't seen a single person in the city when his heavenly tribulation descended. Seeing Long Chen trapped and knowing that he was an enemy of the Sacred Pill Hall, they all cheered for the eighth prince. Long Chen was angered, but just as he was about to unleash the full power of his stars, another gate opened in the sky, and a tall figure appeared. It caused Long Chen's expression to completely change. Big Brother Wu Tian. That figure was precisely Wu Tian. The moment he appeared, the rest of the tribulation clouds vanished without a trace. It was like his arrival sucked up all the power of the heavenly tribulation. After that, the world shuddered and the 10,000 Daos cried out. Even the world kings were quivering, staring in horror at Wu Tian's figure. A spear appeared in Wu Tian's hand. With a quiver of the spear, his body vanished. That spear then pierced through heaven and earth at Long Chen. This is the attack that Big Brother Wu Tian used to send me out of the netherworld. Long Chen was appalled. This was the only attack he had ever seen Wu Tian unleash. It had actually been memorized by the heavenly Daos. The eighth prince was also shocked by this sudden change, so he hastily sent the Elephant Emperor war chariot away. Don't be stingy. Be my shield. Long Chen shouted, and just like that, he hid behind the Elephant Emperor war chariot. What kind of joke was that? Who could possibly block Wu Tian's attack? Boom. The spear fell in front of countless shocked gazes. The Elephant Emperor war chariot was pierced through. The power of that spear was incomparable. It was an attack capable of piercing through the wall between worlds. Back then, Wu Tian had used this attack to make a path for Long Chen back to the immortal world. Thus, Long Chen was profoundly aware of how terrifying this attack was. If he tried to block it, he would definitely die. Let alone him, even a world king was incapable of blocking this attack. The moment the spear pierced the Elephant Emperor war chariot, Long Chen spread his arms, summoning 18 lightning shields. These lightning shields were as flimsy as paper in front of that spear and instantly pierced through. However, they were not there to stop it. The moment the first one was pierced, Long Chen dodged to the side. Long Chen's dragon scales shattered and his blood sprayed out. He had managed to dodge the spear, but even just the shockwaves of its divine might left his body a bloody pulp. Long Chen's heart was cold. This attack had been replicated by the heavenly Daos. So, based on the divine might, it couldn't compare to Wu Tian's attack. Despite that, it was more than enough to kill Long Chen. With the heavenly tribulation locking onto him, if it hadn't been for the Elephant Emperor war chariot and the 18 lightning shields, he would have definitely died. The Elephant Emperor war chariot bought him the time he needed to dodge, and the 18 lightning shields gave him the right timing to start dodging. If he had dodged too early, the spear would have locked onto him a second time. If he had dodged too late, it would have pierced him. Thus, these 18 shields were not to stop the spear, but to give him the proper calculations to dodge. The moment the first shield was broken, he dodged at just the right time. The spear then continued past him, striking the barrier below. That tough barrier instantly became covered in countless cracks. Inside the barrier, the Sacred Pill Hall's experts turned green. The barrier was only a little bit away from shattering. It was something condensed with the faith energy from Lord Brahma's divine statue. As for inside the war chariot, The eighth prince was hacking up blood. Half of his body was gone. "You're not dead? Then I'll send you on your way." Long Chen was also covered in blood, but he didn't mind. They were superficial wounds that didn't affect him. Lightning wings appeared on his back. After that, he shot toward the war chariot and grabbed it. With a howl, he smashed it against the cracking barrier. "No!" The eighth prince cried out in horror. He tried to escape, but his body was no longer listening to his orders. He could only watch as the war chariot smashed toward the barrier. Boom! The crippled war chariot exploded along with the eighth prince. The barrier then quivered and finally shattered. The heavenly tribulation is over. Kill him together. Only then did the Hall Master react. The heavenly tribulation was over and they could finally join in as well. The leaders of the various powerful races instantly shot toward Long Chen. The heavenly geniuses of their races had all been slain, without anyone remaining. So, they were all infuriated and demanded vengeance. On the other hand, the Flying Beast race's experts were led by the Lightning Falcon race, and they didn't move. Keep up the act. Hearing the old race leader's reminder, the current leader of the Lightning Falcon race quickly reacted. If they didn't join the fray as well, their previous act would have been for nothing. Kill that bastard Long Chen who repays kindness with enmity. The leader of the Lightning Falcon race charged out with the major figures of the Flying Beast race. But even as the fastest expert, he was very slow. They couldn't possibly try to kill Long Chen, or that would truly be repaying kindness with enmity indeed. As the heavenly tribulation vanished, Long Chen's body rumbled and his fluctuating aura stabilized. He had successfully advanced to the Divine Lord realm. During the tribulation, he had possessed some of this aura, but that aura was transient, as weak as mud. Now that he had fully advanced, his aura was as solid as steel. The current him was in control of a Divine Lord's power. 4 peaks condensed to become the Lord of the Heavens. Sensing the endless power in his body, Long Chen finally understood the meaning of this phrase that described the Divine Lord realm. A lightning sphere appeared in Long Chen's left hand. Just then, the shattered lightning runes that were the result of Wu Tian's shattered spear transformed into lightning dragons that condensed within his hand. It was at this moment that the Hall Master and the other experts reached Long Chen. Their divine weapons swung toward him. Long Chen smiled mockingly. "I've profited this time. Not only did I pass through the tribulation safe and sound, but I even got rid of a sacred pill hall in this world." The lightning sphere in Long Chen's hand suddenly expanded, containing violent destructive power. Upon seeing it, the Hall Master and the others' expressions changed. This lightning sphere contained the will of Wu Tian's attack, so they sensed the threat of death coming from it. "Get away!" A world king hastily stopped himself and fled. Too late. World extermination lightning radiance. Long Chen shoved the lightning sphere forward. That direction was where Lord Brahma's statue was. Boom. It was like the explosion of the sun. Divine light shook the stars and fragments of space-time flew about. The leader of the Lightning Falcon race jumped in shock when he saw this. He hastily led his people to retreat. Fortunately, they had been the last to join in, and so they were the fastest to get out of the way. The divine light surged out like the devil's tongue. Anything touched by this light disintegrated. Even half-step world kings were unable to resist that terrifying power. The Flying Beast race's experts were the fastest to retreat, but some shockwaves still reached them, sending them flying. Fortunately, they were far away enough from the core area that they only coughed up blood. The lightning destroyed space and time, leaving desolate astral winds in its midst. Now, the remnants of flesh and destroyed buildings floated in the wreckage. There were even divine weapons being blown about in the astral winds, and some unlucky fellows were pierced by those weapons. After the devastation was over, the terrain had completely changed. The previous glorious city was gone. All that remained of it was a single statue. Other than this statue, as far as the eye could see, there was no other human construction. This attack was truly earth-shattering. One figure after another came out of the ground. These were world kings. However, they were covered in dirt and blood. Within the core of the world extermination lightning radiance, Only world kings were capable of surviving. Within the deathly silence, the sound of flowing water rang out. In the distance, they saw a black-robed man with a blood-colored saber on his shoulder apathetically peeing on the divine statue's head. Lord Brahma, ah Lord Brahma, just look at how dusty your face is. Boss Long San will help wash your face. In front of countless dumbfounded gazes, Long Chen peed on the head of the divine statue and critiqued it. Long Chen, you are courting death. Long Chen had not just destroyed the auspicious Cloud Prefecture but was also blaspheming his god. The Hall Master's expression instantly twisted with fury. This piss was done to Long Chen's heart's content. There was no helping that there was limited storage for such a matter, and ultimately, it ended. After that, Long Chen slowly tied his belt. He smiled at the Hall Master, showing his teeth. Are you mad? Are you angry? Suddenly, Long Chen's smile vanished, replaced with furious killing intent. Do you know how enraged I am? Lord Brahma, the day that I cut off your head will come sooner or later. Boom. Long Chen swung the Minghong saber down. Because of it, the divine statue shuddered and countless runes lit up. A divine aura soared. Long Chen was actually knocked away by those runes. This divine statue was protected by faith energy, so nothing could destroy it. Long Chen almost coughed up blood from the impact. Courting death. The Hall Master roared and a pill furnace appeared in his hand. He then smashed it at Long Chen. At this moment, diagrams of the sun and moon flowed on top of it. It was a day-night furnace with fallen day knight's aura coming from it. Boom. Long Chen fearlessly swung his saber, unleashing split the heavens again. But this time, an immense force almost broke his arm. His insides were also shaken, and blood leaked out of his mouth. However, this also blew back the day-night furnace. He forcibly received the attack of a world king? In the distance, the leader of the Lightning Falcon race was amazed. It had to be known that the Hall Master was currently crazy with fury. That had been a full-power attack from him, but Long Chen had blocked it. Long Chen's blood was flipping inside of him, and he was forced far into the distance. A true world king was far stronger than a half-step world king. Thus, Long Chen was at a great disadvantage. Die! The Hall Master once more sent the day-night furnace smashing toward him. At this moment, Long Chen saw a divine statue in a pillar of divine light behind the Hall Master. Then looking back at the statue of Lord Brahma on the ground, he saw that it was glowing brightly. The Hall Master was using its power. Boom! Long Chen once more exchanged blows with the Hall Master. And this time, he coughed up blood. The sacred power of the pill furnace now contained Lord Brahma's power. Not good. Long Chen's heart shook. This fellow was a true world king. Although Long Chen had advanced to the Divine Lord realm, he was still at a disadvantage. After all, they were 2 realms apart. It wasn't like in the Four-Peak realm when he could easily kill immortal kings. The Hall Master's manifestation shone brightly, resonating with Lord Brahma's divine statue. As the heavenly Daos cried out, his aura continued to climb. Suddenly, Long Chen shot toward Lord Brahma's statue. Seeing this, the Hall Master snorted and formed hand seals. A barrier then appeared around Lord Brahma's statue. In truth, he wasn't worried about Long Chen destroying the statue. The statue had been nourished by faith energy for tens of millions of years, so it was practically indestructible. Let alone Long Chen, not even a world king could destroy it. This barrier he set up was merely to prevent Long Chen from further blaspheming his god before his death. Die! The Hall Master once more sent the day-night furnace smashing toward Long Chen. It was simply brute force, but it was even stronger than the last 2 blows. Now, the day-night furnace emitted such immense pressure that it was as if the world was about to collapse. Long Chen ignored the day-night furnace. When he arrived in front of the barrier, he suddenly took out a dagger. This was that mysterious broken sword that he had found in the Black Sea of the Netherworld. Long Chen threw the dagger. The black-as-ink tip silently cut through the barrier and the divine statue's head, flying out of the back of its head. Those powerful runes and the materials of the divine statue were pierced like they were tofu. Lightning runes then flashed around Long Chen's body. He vanished, reappearing behind the statue where he grabbed the dagger. Boom. Just then, the day-night furnace smashed down perfectly into the divine statue. As a result, the statue crumbled. It was destroyed by the sacred pill hall's master. The hall master's head buzzed. Seeing this scene, he just stood there, dumbfounded. His head was blank as he had no idea what to do. It seems that you want to start a revolt? By destroying Lord Brahma's divine statue, are you going independent from him? Long Chen felt incredibly satisfied when he saw the hall master's dazed expression. This fellow had executed the 9-star heir before, so Long Chen wished to personally skin him and pull out every muscle in his body. But having him destroy the statue of his own god was also very satisfying. The hall master suddenly coughed up blood. It was unknown if it was due to his mental state or if it was from losing his connection to the divine statue, but he suddenly turned as pale as paper. His face was twisted. Long Chen's gaze shifted. He then moved, appearing amongst the broken fragments of the statue and grabbing the day-night furnace. Courting death. The hall master was further incensed, so he hastily formed hand seals. Regretfully, just as he formed his hand seals, he found that he could no longer sense the day-night furnace. He had lost his connection to it because Long Chen had tossed it into the primal chaos space. This time, the hall master coughed up 3 mouthfuls of blood. That was his life furnace with his spiritual marks on it. But now that those marks were forcibly erased, his soul was damaged. I am confiscating the instrument of your crime. I'll use this evidence to show Lord Brahma that you are preparing to revolt. Long Chen laughed. Kill him. The hall master stuttered before roaring. After that, he took out a sword and charged at Long Chen. Halfway there, his 2 assistants cried out and hastily went to support him. Just then, a blood-colored saber appeared out of nowhere right in front of the hall master. Isn't that? The expressions of the Lightning Falcon race's experts changed. They recognized the technique that Long Chen had just used. It was an innate divine ability of the Lightning Falcon race, lightning teleport. Furthermore, the number of people qualified to cultivate this technique did not surpass 10, but Long Chen had actually learned it. Long Chen had not displayed this secret art this entire time just to wait for a chance. Now he had succeeded. The Minghong saber then shuddered, and his power erupted within the hall master's body like a volcano. As a result, blood sprayed out and a large hole appeared in the hall master's chest. However, he didn't die. His 2 assistants managed to protect his life, pulling him back from the border of death. They then retreated, creating distance between them and Long Chen. Just then, countless demonic beast experts charged over, and dozens of world kings surrounded Long Chen. Die! Those world kings attacked together. Their divine weapons whistled toward Long Chen with all their power. So many world kings had joined forces to attack a single divine lord that had just advanced. If that information spread, it would shock countless people. Long Chen had killed the hopes for their futures, so these world kings were crazy with rage. All their faces were twisted with fury. As dozens of world kings attacked at once, heaven and earth twisted and space-time was locked shut. With nowhere to go, Long Chen was instantly caught in a sure-death scenario. However, Long Chen wasn't the slightest bit worried. In front of all these attacks, he simply rested the Minghong saber on his shoulder, seemingly having given up on resisting and wishing to die. Just then, a screen of light appeared around Long Chen, and it had countless stars flickering within it just like an entire star field. Those World King's attacks landed on the light screen, causing it to quiver ever so slightly. With a few ripples, those attacks seemed to be pebbles that fell into the sea, vanishing without a trace. What? These World Kings were shocked. They had never witnessed such a thing. How regretful. I was lacking just a little bit. Long Chen looked through the screen of light and at the heavily wounded hallmaster. He then sighed, shaking his head regretfully. To put it frankly, he was unable to fully control his new power. When he attacked, there were large fluctuations that showed off his intent. That was why the hallmaster had escaped his death. Long Chen's dissatisfied expression at having failed to kill the hallmaster left the experts present even more stunned. Long Chen had just advanced to the Divine Lord realm but had managed to heavily wound the Sacred Pill Hall's master. After this battle, his name would spread far and wide. But he still wasn't happy with that. After this battle, no one would be able to question the High Firmament Academy's decision about making him a dean. If others weren't present, Long Chen would have managed to kill the Sacred Pill Hall's master. His power was definitely enough to be the dean of a branch academy. Long Chen felt a bit regretful. His main target had been the 8th prince, but his second target was the Hall Master. They were the ones he had to kill to avenge the 9-star heir. Regretfully, there were too many people in the surroundings, and he had only had one chance. It was such a pity that he hadn't managed to succeed and could only leave a heavy wound on him. However, he had destroyed the auspicious Cloud Prefecture, exterminating the foundation of the Sacred Pill Hall and killing millions of Lord Brahma's followers in this base. He had also destroyed his divine statue. If that 9-star heir knew these things, he would definitely be able to smile in the 9 springs. Also, the Hall Master was already old, and his blood chi had started to decline. As Long Chen's attack had wounded his core, it was already impossible for him to fully recover afterward. There was even danger of his realm falling. Once his realm fell, his longevity would instantly reach its limit. In any case, he wouldn't be able to live much longer. This attack had taken half of his life at least. Fine, killing you now would be meaningless. It would be better for you to stay alive so that you can beg forgiveness from Divine Venerate Brahma. Tell him how you smashed apart his statue. If you don't explain yourself well, I trust that Lord Brahma will punish you properly. Long Chen smiled sinisterly at the pale Hall Master who was rapidly consuming medicinal pills to suppress his wounds. Hearing that, the Hall Master coughed up more blood. He grew listless. At this moment, his assistants were horrified and hastily sealed his aura with their divine power, having him fall unconscious for now to protect his life. However, with this, there was an 80 to 90% chance that his realm would fall afterward. But if they hadn't sealed his aura, with his tumultuous emotions, he might very well lose control of his unstable power and explode right here. They were no fools. If they had let the Hall Master die, when the questions were asked and the responsibility for this came crashing down, the two of them would have to endure it. But as long as the Hall Master was still alive, the two of them wouldn't be blamed too much. Thus, they definitely couldn't allow him to die. Even if he lost his realm and lifespan, that was of less importance to them. This was an extreme emergency. At this moment, the demonic beasts began to repeatedly attack the barrier around Long Chen. The leaders of the Mammoth Divine Elephant, Water Mallard, Golden Barbarian Bull, and Blue-Eye Bright Scale races in particular were attacking the most ferociously. Regretfully, no matter how they attacked, they were unable to break that barrier. Of course it was impossible for them to break it. This barrier was made from the energy of the core of the star field. In front of this power, their own individual power was like that of ants. Actually, there's no need for you to hate me. If you want to hate someone, you should hate the Sacred Pill Hall. You are nothing more than the Sacred Pill Hall's pawns. No, you can't even count as pawns. You are pigs that the Sacred Pill Hall raised. Do you know that the price of the pills they sell you are dozens of times greater, or even 100 times greater than what the rest of the world sells them for? The Sacred Pill Hall locked you up here and brainwashed you, slowly turning you into their subordinates to fight against 9-star heirs. By then, other than the 9 Underworld Hall, there would be an additional force dedicated to killing 9-star heirs. You already killed a 9-star heir here, so the Sacred Pill Hall will quickly spread recordings of this throughout the world. Then every 9-star heir will come here to get vengeance on you. The seeds of enmity will grow until all of you are simply killing each other, and as the pain and hatred pile up, the truth no longer becomes important. If you fools still don't understand how you are being used by the Sacred Pill Hall, then you are truly so foolish that there is no cure. Absolute nonsense. You are just making up lies. The 2 assistant hall masters roared furiously, veins bulging on their foreheads. Fortunately, they had made their hall master fall unconscious, or if he heard Long Chen's words, he really might just die from rage. Calm down. We're all just talking nicely. Don't get so angry. Long Chen flapped his hand as if he was being a kind elder that mediated things. Talking nicely? The two assistant hall masters looked at the destruction around them and the shattered statue of Brahma. They clenched their teeth furiously. After progressing to this point, he urged them to talk nicely. They suddenly felt that they might fall unconscious just like their hall master. Fine, I won't say much more. Your integral heaven star field isn't too far from my Empyrean heaven star field. In my Empyrean heaven star field, there is a very trustworthy company called the Huayun Trading Company. You can secretly send people to see how things are there. You can see what the prices of identical products are. Once you see their prices, you'll learn the difference between a black-hearted scammer and a merchant with integrity, said Long Chen. He wanted to say more, but the core of the star field was telling him that she was only able to maintain this barrier for a limited time. Thus, he quickly spat out some facts about the Huayun Trading Company. Just then, an item came flying out of the wreckage. It actually directly passed through the barrier that protected Long Chen. It was the Minghong Saber sheath. Once the Minghong Saber entered the sheath, Long Chen noticed that it was different from other sabers. It was a complete item with its sheath. The sheath was 2 feet thick and was like a shield. Countless blood-colored runes flowed on top of it. Curiously, the pressure that the sheath gave off was even stronger than that of the actual saber. Long Chen didn't have time to examine it more closely, and he put away the saber and sheath. I am Long Chen from the High Firmament Academy's 7th branch. If anyone wants revenge, come find me. The Empyrean Heaven Star Field doesn't have a single power controlling it like the Sacred Pill Hall. We welcome any friends. As for whether you are a friend or foe, it's up to you. What nonsense. You killed Yuner, repaying kindness with enmity. We can only be enemies, howled the Lightning Falcon race's leader. Long Chen was startled but then laughed. Then come get revenge. When have I, Long Chen, ever been afraid of anyone? Suddenly, the light screen covering Long Chen quivered and he vanished, leaving behind all the wreckage. That as Long Chen left, the auspicious cloud domain was in ruins. Other than the broken fragments of Lord Brahma's statue, there were almost no signs of civilization at all. The world extermination lightning radiance had destroyed all the remaining buildings within the city, turning them into dust. Just how glorious had the auspicious cloud domain been? But because of Long Chen, it was turned into wilderness. The sacred pill hall which had stood for tens of millions of years now had its divine statue broken. Millions and millions of demonic beasts had been killed, along with tens of millions of followers of the sacred pill hall. On his own, Long Chen had practically wiped out an entire generation of the integral heaven star field. Only the flying beast race's experts had survived. They were lucky, otherwise, they would have been wiped out as well. They were unaware that this luck was all calculated by Long Chen. He had given them a way out. Fortunately, the old race leader of the Lightning Falcon race was smart and didn't let the flying beast race get drawn into the final battle. Furthermore, the curses that the Lightning Falcon race's leader had spat at Long Chen actually meant the opposite. The once glorious sacred pill hall had been reduced to just 3 people. No, it was 2.5 people. The hall master could only count as half a person in his state. The 2 assistant hall masters had ugly expressions. With the destruction of the statue, they lost the ability to communicate with Lord Brahma. Now, they could only bring the hall master to another star field and quickly report this matter. Once they left, the demonic beasts also gloomily scattered. The leader of the Lightning Falcon race angrily shouted at people to bring away Lei Yuner's corpse. Once they were back at their home, without needing any medicine, Lei Yuner slowly woke up on her own. After waking up, she cried out and shouted, "Why did you kill me?" In her memories, all she remembered was how Long Chen had attacked her. She didn't remember anything after that. When the old race leader explained this matter to her, her tears turned into a smile. Suddenly, she noticed that a spatial ring had appeared on her finger. Checking it, she cried out in shock. It was packed with tens of thousands of lightning spirit blood soul pills. Furthermore, they were all top-grade spirit pills. When the elders of the Lightning Falcon race saw those medicinal pills, they were all dumbfounded. This was an enormous wealth to them. There's also a piece of paper, said an elder. Reading the paper, they found that this had truly been left by Long Chen, and he had also left some words for Lei Yuna. His goal this time had been to kill the 8th prince as well as the Hall Master. However, he had known that killing the Hall Master would be extremely difficult, so he hadn't had much hope for that. The reason he had attacked Lei Yuna was for fear that the Sacred Pill Hall would find trouble for the Lightning Falcon race in the future. If Long Chen had known that he would borrow the power of the final attack of the Heavenly Tribulation to destroy the Sacred Pill Hall's barrier, perhaps he wouldn't have done this. After all, now that the Sacred Pill Hall was reduced to 2.5 people, it was unknown how the 2 of them would manage to survive the wrath of the higher-ups. They wouldn't be in the mood to find trouble for others. In any case, Long Chen had left the path wide open for Lei Yuna. In the end, he told Lei Yuna that there was a thing called love in the human race's world. Love was the foundation for a union between a man and a woman, something not backed by any goals or intentions. Love was a thing that didn't require anything in return. It was not to give birth to stronger descendants but to be together. So while he was grateful to Lei Yuna for her high opinion of him, he was unable to accept such a good thing from her. He then expressed his apology to her. Lei Yuna seemed to understand yet not understand his words. She only held the paper and cried. All she knew was that Long Chen didn't want her children. Yuna, don't cry. The human race is closer to the heavenly Daos, so their feelings can't be understood by us. But it's fine, as long as you work hard at cultivation and comprehend more of the heavenly Daos, perhaps you will one day come to understand what that love of the human race is. At that time, you will be able to understand Long Chen's heart. Perhaps he will agree to have children with you then. So don't feel bad. Work hard on your cultivation until you can lead the Lightning Falcon race forward, implored the old leader of the Lightning Falcon race. This elder could be considered a very rare wise person amongst the demonic beast race. Afraid that Lei Yuna would waste time on this issue, he first drew a new goal for her. It had to be known that she had made amazing gains after this tribulation. Her body and soul had undergone a complete transformation. It could be said that other than Long Chen, she was the one to benefit the most from the heavenly tribulation. Perhaps there were greater heavenly geniuses amongst the demonic beasts before this, but those people were all dead now. As long as Lei Yuna became a world king, the Lightning Falcon race would become the overlord of the integral heaven star field. Alright, I'll work hard on cultivation. I'll only have children with him. Lei Yuna clenched her fists, solemnly swearing to accomplish a far and distant goal. Space trembled and Long Chen appeared in a desolate land that was surrounded by a desert. There wasn't a single blade of grass growing here. Along with him appeared the woman that was the manifestation of the core of the star field. The woman looked at Long Chen. It really is all thanks to you. This place is the edge of the integral heaven star field. If you pass through the border wall here, you will find yourself in the Empyrean heaven star field. Speaking of which, the woman waved her hand. The next moment, countless weapons, extravagant cases, precious medicines, bone books, and other items appeared, forming a small mountain of treasures. Long Chen was shocked. These weapons were all king items. Even the 8th prince's golden spear was amongst them. You helped me out so much. I can't give you much, but I think these things are useful to you. When the city was destroyed, I gathered these things to avoid them being destroyed. I myself have nothing, so I can only hope that this gift is enough, said the woman apologetically. How could it not be? These things are priceless treasures to me. I truly have to thank you. How could Long Chen possibly complain about this gift? These were all treasures. There were over 10,000 king items here. Some were part of the Sacred Pill Hall's treasury, and the others were items whose masters had died in battle. They had all been gathered for him, so Long Chen had profited immensely. However, there were too many treasures and he didn't have time to go through them all. As a result, he simply tossed them all into the primal chaos space. He then thanked her once more. He had previously felt some heartache since all the treasures of the auspicious Cloud Trading Company were destroyed just like that. But now there wasn't the slightest waste. Seeing how happy he was, the woman was also very happy. After saying goodbye to Long Chen, she vanished into the world. Long Chen was very satisfied. Humming a little tune, he started flying in the direction she had pointed. The border could be considered similar to a barrier, but it wasn't targeting anyone. It was the result of the layers between two star fields touching, and it could be pierced through with enough power. Before this, the border was watched by the Sacred Pill Hall's formation. But now that the Sacred Pill Hall had been crippled, naturally no one was overseeing it. After passing through the border, Long Chen instantly felt that the aura of the heavenly Daos was different. Here, the aura was more peaceful, more tranquil. It didn't have the air of the integral heaven star field that caused restlessness and irritation. Long Chen knew that the integral heaven star field was originally the same as the Empyrean heaven star field. They were both places for human cultivation. It was later that the Sacred Pill Hall forcibly transformed it into a world more suited for demonic beast cultivation. Upon entering the Empyrean heaven star field, Long Chen clearly felt his mood improve. Even breathing became easier, and he no longer felt so constrained and irritable. Furthermore, he felt an indescribable closeness to the Empyrean heaven star field. The heavenly Tao energy had grown warmer to him. This was thanks to the blessing of the integral heaven star field's core. She had left her heavenly Tao mark on him, and any kind-hearted star field cores would sense that mark and feel closer to him as a result. I've really profited this time. Long Chen laughed. After being conned by Imputa, he still managed to turn calamity into profit. Long Chen looked around. He was in a barren land without any people around, so he decided to just take a stop here and start an inventory of his gains. There's a day-night furnace. Its quality is far greater than the old one. I'll leave this to the moon and star refining furnace. With both of them working together, medicinal pills will come limitlessly. Long Chen rubbed the day-night furnace excitedly. Although the demon moon furnace could refine powerful demonic pills, they were mostly only usable by himself. Others couldn't endure their power. With another day-night furnace, it was truly like someone had given him a pillow just as he was dozing off. This day-night furnace's item spirit directly resisted when it was drawn into the primal chaos, and the primal chaos bead directly exterminated that item spirit. Because of this, the moon and star refining furnace's item spirit could directly merge into it. In just a few days, it would be in full control. Within the primal chaos space was a lightning dragon coiling in slumber. This time, as soon as his tribulation had started, he had Lei Linger transform into millions of lightning runes spread throughout the space, silently absorbing thunder force. During his tribulation, many people had been absorbing the lightning runes. But once they died, those lightning runes returned to heaven and earth. Lei Linger then absorbed the lightning runes in the air, as well as the ones coming out of the fallen. It could be said that this time, she didn't waste a single drop. Hidden within the heavenly tribulation, no one had even noticed her. Originally, she was a trump card Long Chen had been preparing to use against the 8th prince, because the Elephant Emperor War Chariot was truly difficult to deal with. But then Wu Tian appeared and directly pierced the War Chariot, causing Long Chen to change ideas. He then had Lei Linger absorb the remnant power of that spear and spit out half to help him wipe out the headquarters of the Sacred Pill Hall. It just so happened that Lei Linger was unable to absorb the full power of that final attack, so rather than wasting it, Long Chen used that power to kill. Lei Linger had conserved the power that she could devour and was in the midst of absorbing it. An astonishing aura now came from her body. After all of this thunder force was absorbed, her power would soar to an unimaginable level. There were over 10,000 king items, almost all of them being premium quality. After all, the king items that could manage to survive that tribulation intact had to be top grade. It could be said that these king items alone were an unimaginable level of wealth. Also, there were various medicinal ingredients, millions in fact. Long Chen then planted all the ones that he didn't have in the medicinal fields. As for the medicinal pills that he gained, he didn't even bother going through them. He would just leave those to the people in the warehouse to deal with. Now, Long Chen was looking at various secret tomes. Long Chen looked through them and found that they were mostly alchemy techniques. Most likely, they were pulled out of the Sacred Pill Hall's secret treasury. Those things were also useless to him. But they were useful to the High Firmament Academy. They had alchemists that could refine ordinary pills, but higher-tier medicinal pills and some rather unique medicinal pills had to be bought from the Huayan Trading Company. With these secret tomes, the High Firmament Academy's alchemy level would soar. What? There are spatial chests. Long Chen suddenly noticed 8 spatial chests amongst the treasures. When he opened them, he found that they were packed with fist-sized crystals. Every spatial chest had 10 million Immortal King crystals, for a total of 80 million Immortal King crystals. Fuck, the Sacred Pill Hall really knows how to make money. Where did they steal 80 million crystals from? Long Chen's heart was pounding. He had never seen so much money before. Even before this, the first generation Wood Foundation divine fruit that he sold to Zheng Wenlong had only gotten him a few 100,000 Immortal King crystals worth of materials, which he then used to rebuild the 7th Branch Academy. At that time, he had felt himself to be a rich moneybag. However, looking at these 8 spatial chests, he suddenly felt like he was a starving beggar compared to the Sacred Pill Hall. There are more. Long Chen found even more scattered Immortal King crystals at the bottom of the pile of treasures. In the end, he managed to scrounge up another few 100,000. Seeing this wealth, Long Chen almost felt numb. The Sacred Pill Hall had way too much money. In the end, he found thousands of spatial rings as well. I'm not going through all of this. Long Chen directly gave up. These spatial rings mostly belonged to those half-step world kings. They were their life's savings. Only half-step world kings could protect at least a portion of their bodies under Long Chen's attacks, so these spatial rings were still intact. These spatial rings had all kinds of things. It would take him months to sort through them all, so he just gave up. Although it was nice to count money, when there was too much money to count, it became a chore. He had lost interest. Finally, Long Chen turned his attention to the Minghong saber. He pulled it out along with its sheath. Closing his eyes, he sensed it and smiled. I didn't expect my greatest gain this time to be you. This sheath was made out of unknown materials. It had actually absorbed a huge amount of blood-soul energy and was currently nourishing the Minghong saber. Long Chen quickly concluded that the Minghong saber was a weapon made for slaughter. The sheath would absorb the blood-soul energy of the slain, transforming it into a miraculous energy capable of strengthening the Minghong saber. In other words, it would continue to grow. No wonder it thirsted to go along with him. As long as it was with Long Chen, it would definitely grow at the fastest rate. Long Chen then placed the Minghong saber on his back. One man and saber, mutually reflecting on each other. It appeared incredibly wild and domineering. Boss Long San is returning home in glory. Long Chen laughed and stepped into the air, transforming into a bolt of lightning that vanished from this wilderness. Long Chen used the movement art he had learned from the Lightning Falcon race. Lightning then wrapped around his body, and he transformed into a lightning falcon that sped through the air. Seeing space constantly twisting while experiencing this carefree speed, Long Chen was moved. It was like he had returned to his childhood and Long Tianxiao was helping him ride a horse through the plains. Long Chen raised his head and roared. As a result, thunder rumbled and he accelerated to the point that even the world around him grew blurry from how fast he was going. This feeling of speed made him feel like all his vexations were being thrown far into the distance, as if all his worries were no longer a concern. After leaving the integral Heaven Star field, he was no longer worried about revealing that he knew the secret arts of the Lightning Falcon race. So, he flew at top speed. In just over 2 hours, it was no longer a barren wilderness around him. He gradually saw some greenery, and the sparse spiritual qi in the air also increased in density. At this point he slowed down a bit. It was no longer a flat land. If he accidentally crashed into a mountain at this speed, he might end up injuring himself. He quickly saw signs of civilization. This place was still mostly wilderness at this point. The spiritual qi was thin, and there weren't many people around. When he swept out his divine sense, he found that the people here seemed to be hunters. Due to the sparse spiritual qi here, there weren't any ferocious beasts around. There were simply some wild beasts that they could hunt to live off of. Perhaps this sparse spiritual chi was precisely what allowed them to survive here. Long Chen then paused and saw a small village not too far from him. A few dozen children were running around there, brandishing some sticks and shouting. A man in a crude beast hide was also holding a small club and sternly rebuking anyone whose movements were incorrect. The children all looked to be around 6 or 7 years old. When the man struck them with his club, they clenched their teeth and cried, but they didn't make a sound. There was also a group of women cleaning up some prey and some strong people tidying up weapons. Those were just normal metal weapons, but they were very careful with them. Those weapons were clearly as important as their lives. Upon seeing this village, a slight ripple appeared in Long Chen's heart. He thought of a pure and innocent maiden with a slightly dark complexion and large eyes, a maiden that always had a smile on her face. A necklace of different colored stones then appeared in his hand. It was a very crude and simple necklace that was held together with hemp strings. The stones were also not perfectly circular. It wasn't all that good to look at. However, Long Chen had always been looking after it properly. This was something from Xiao Hua, an incomparably pure girl from a small village in the Phoenix Cry Empire's wilderness, who thought of him as a gift from the heavens. Long Chen thought of the Martial Heaven continent and his old friends. He didn't know how they were. Were those that had ascended doing well? Were those that hadn't ascended accustomed to their new world? Long Chen sighed. He put away the necklace and continued on his way. The spiritual chi in the air grew denser as he flew. He gradually started to see tracks from powerful beasts and some cultivators. Long Chen then saw some small squads fighting a huge bear. That was probably their prey, but it seemed that they had provoked something that they shouldn't provoke. Just as the 7 of them were about to be killed, Long Chen slapped that bear to death. Having escaped death, those people were all grateful to Long Chen. He asked them some questions and learned that they came from a small town. As for what prefecture they were in, they really didn't know. It seemed that this place was truly remote. Long Chen asked them where their town was, and it really was small. The strongest person in this city was only at the Divine Flame realm. This was most likely the result of the sparse spiritual chi limiting their room for growth. Long Chen asked that expert and learned that this place belonged to the Qingyang prefecture. The Qingyang prefecture wasn't even able to enter the ranks of the 100 domains and 1,000 prefectures, because this prefecture had been in ruins ever since an ancient battle. It was only in the last few million years that it once more became suitable for cultivation. This place could not be compared to those other prefectures inside the Heavenly Swell domain. The so-called 100 domains and 1,000 prefectures referred to the intact domains and prefecture cities that survived that ancient battle. In the immortal world, prefectures made up domains, domains made up star fields, and star fields made up heavens. It was said that the entire immortal world had 9 heavens but 10 lands. That saying was a bit contradictory, but people kept repeating it. After learning this, Long Chen gave that expert a longevity-extending pill, one that could give him an extra 1,000 years of life. That expert was overjoyed and repeatedly thanked him. This town was too poor to even construct a transportation formation, so Long Chen could only set off on his own. When he reached the prefecture city, it finally appeared a bit more like the cultivation world. He asked for their best transportation formation. This place wasn't the Heavenly Swell domain. From here, he was transported to another prefecture city. He then went through 7 prefecture cities before reaching the core prefecture city of this domain. When he came to their greatest transportation formation, he found that there was no one overseeing it. He was standing in front of the transportation formation and about to ask for someone's help when someone spotted Long Chen and jumped in shock. "Aren't you Long Chen? The dual champion of the Heavenly Swell Domain's 9 prefecture convention?" Long Chen hadn't expected someone to recognize him. He said, "Yes, that's me. Brother, do you know if this transportation formation can be used?" This person was in the 4-peak realm. However, his spiritual fluctuations were already growing sluggish. He looked to be in his 30s, but his actual age was definitely not young. But in the immortal world, it was a person's realm and power that was respected. Sometimes calling someone brother was raising them up, acting like you didn't know their age or power. Of course you can use it. However, this transportation formation is rarely used. In order to save resources, it isn't activated at all times. If you wait just a bit, I will inform the city lord to activate the transportation formation. He needs to personally come to unlock it. That person was overwhelmed with favor at being called brother by Long Chen. He immediately ran off to alert the city lord. As a result, he didn't just bring back the city lord. Countless experts also came to take a look. The news of the arrival of the dual champion of the 9 Prefecture Convention was quite big here. The city lord was an Earth-tier immortal king, and he was most likely the apex expert of this region. In the end, shallow waters couldn't produce big fish. There was no way that this place could compare to the heavenly swell domain. Dean Long Chen, your reputation precedes you. I won't say any superfluous words. Do you wish to return to the heavenly swell domain? Asked the city lord. Yes, I'll trouble you to help me out. Long Chen cupped his fists. Dare I ask what the current situation is like there? What situation? Asked Long Chen. Do you not know? The heavenly swell domain, the vile dragon domain, and other domains are being attacked. Devils have invaded from another world, and the Devil Sea has also erupted. Those fiend devils are climbing onto the land in multiple domains. Is our information wrong? Asked the city lord, feeling baffled. Upon hearing this, Long Chen's expression instantly changed. The Devil Sea erupted at the same time as the Devil race invaded the immortal world. It couldn't be a coincidence. If it wasn't a coincidence, someone must be controlling things behind the scenes. Long Chen instantly thought of how the integral heaven star field had originally belonged to the human race but was then invaded by devils, only for them to retreat for no reason after taking over, resulting in the entire star field falling into the hands of the sacred Pill Hall. If his guess was correct, Lord Brahma definitely had a way to control those devils. He was the source of this calamity, and he was the one using the devils against the High Firmament Academy. When did you receive this information? Asked Long Chen. 3 days ago, answered the city lord. 3 days? That wasn't too long. Long Chen said, City Lord, please help me activate the transportation formation. I must go right now. The city lord awkwardly said, this transportation formation isn't kept active at all times. In order to reactivate it, we need close to 100 immortal king crystals. Right now, I only have. Long Chen instantly understood. If the transportation formation was kept active at all times, then sending a single divine lord across domains would only cost around 10 immortal king crystals. However, actually turning on the formation so that it could be used required close to 100 immortal king crystals. That kind of wealth was no small sum to this city lord, and he hadn't reached such a level of generosity that he could give Long Chen that much. That's fine. Is this enough? Long Chen directly gave the city lord 120 immortal king crystals. It's enough. There are also leftovers. The city lord relaxed when he saw Long Chen take out the money. He had no intention of taking advantage of Long Chen, but he really was unable to lose that much money. The leftover change is the fee for using your transportation formations. Rules are rules. My High Firmament Academy can't let you work for nothing. Please hurry, said Long Chen. He didn't even care about this small sum. He only wanted to get back as fast as possible. As expected, money was the solution to all problems. The Immortal King crystals were then embedded into notches in the formation, and it was fully activated in just an incense stick's worth of time. After that, Long Chen stepped in and space twisted around him. After some time, his body felt heavy, and his foot landed on solid ground. There was a familiar scent in the air, yet also foreign. That foreign scent was full of brutality and slaughter. This was definitely the heavenly swell domain. Now, Long Chen took out a map and checked where he was. Orienting himself, he rushed toward the closest prefecture city. When he arrived, he found that they were on a strict lockdown. The Grand Formation had been activated, and countless armored experts were on guard, waiting for enemies to attack. Dean Long Chen. When Long Chen arrived, those experts cried out in shock. They hastily let him in. Many thanks. I wish to borrow your transportation formation to get back to the High Firmament Academy, said Long Chen to their leader. Dean Long Chen, didn't you run? Why are you going back? Asked the leader. I ran. Long Chen's heart shook. It seemed that the problem was worse than he had expected. After asking some questions, he learned that the spatial channel that the devils had opened was near the High Firmament Academy. Hence, the academy was completely isolated and besieged by countless devils. The surrounding laws were also shattered, leaving their transportation formations ineffective. As for the prefecture cities around the High Firmament Academy, they were on a tight lockdown. Fortunately, up until now, those devils seemed to only have their sights on the High Firmament Academy. Only a small portion spread throughout the surroundings. This prefecture city was very far from the Martial Heaven Prefecture. Thus, right now, they were under no pressure. Their experts had even gone to support other prefecture cities. However, the Martial Heaven Prefecture space was in chaos, so they were unable to go there directly. They had no idea what was going on there. In this situation, countless rumors were running wild. They all said that the High Firmament Academy was about to fall. Seeing Long Chen appear here, they thought that he had run. Remember, the High Firmament Academy has not toppled in trillions of years. This kind of tiny wave is nothing. Second, although the disciples of the High Firmament Academy might not get along normally, when crisis descends, all their hearts are united. No one will retreat or abandon the others to flee. Third, the people spreading rumors and trying to bring everyone down are trash. Stay away from them. After saying that, Long Chen stepped into the transportation formation. He rushed toward the Yaohua Prefecture, which was closest to the Martial Heaven Prefecture. Once he was here, he heard the sound of battle. Even his appearance didn't draw anyone's notice. He then hastily rushed to the city gates. A huge swarm of devils was attacking the city's formation. Those devils were several meters tall, with long hands and feet, looking a bit like hairless apes. Their heads were larger though, and they had fangs that were like saw-teeth. Moreover, bone-like claws grew out of their hands and feet, and they were covered in scales. In addition to their sinister appearances, their auras were full of brutality and bloodthirstiness. Long Chen saw millions of experts fighting those devils, blocking them from getting close to the prefecture city. This grand formation was the final lifeline of the prefecture city, a last resort that couldn't be used until all else failed. If the formation was broken as well, then the millions and millions of commoners inside the city would be killed. Countless women and children were quivering inside their rooms. The roars of the devils could be heard through the formation. To them, it felt as if the very heavens were collapsing. Hence, the millions of experts outside the city were fighting with all their power. Even cultivators only in the divine flame realm were participating. The battlefield spread as far as the eye could see. The ground was littered with corpses, and black blood infected the land. It was unknown how many corpses of the human race were buried under the carcasses of the devils. The furthest group was composed of over 10 immortal kings fighting a single terrifying devil. The other devils had black scales, but this devil's scales were fiery red. Its blood chi was truly like a sea, and its devil chi overflowed. With every strike of its claws, the void was torn apart. A single heaven-tier immortal king going all out to receive this attack was still left coughing up blood. That devil had reached the half-step world king level, so only that heaven-tier immortal king was barely able to receive its attacks. The others could only work with him to buy him some time between attacks. However, that half-step world king devil was too terrifying. The elder received 3 blows before being wounded, which caused everyone to despair. Other than this one elder, no one else was capable of stopping this devil. But this elder was so old that he was already past his prime. There was no way he could beat the devil. Boom. The other immortal kings, including 2 earth-tier immortal kings, joined forces to stop the devil's next attack. As a result, all of them were like blades of grass in the wind, blown far into the distance and coughing up blood. Their auras fell. You damn devil! That heaven-tier immortal king saw that there was no beating this devil. With a furious roar, he summoned all his power, condensing it into one final attack. He knew that this blow was useless, but he would rather die trying than retreat. The elder's sword fell. Following that, a shocking scene occurred. A ray of divine light fell, and that unstoppable fiend suddenly quivered. After that, a crack spread from the top of its head all the way to its abdomen. What? The elder stared in disbelief. The devil's corpse split in two. For a moment, everyone was simply stunned. They looked behind the elder as a black-robed figure with a huge sword sheath had appeared there. He was holding a blood-red saber. You're Dean Longchen? Longchen's name had long since spread as the youngest ever dean of the High Firmament Academy. Hence, cheers rang out from the countless experts of the Yaohua Prefecture. Just then, a furious roar rang out, and more devils in the distance flooded over them from all directions. There were 3 devils with red scales leading a new army to this place. Not good. Dean Longchen, follow us back into the city. We'll use the formation to stop them, said the elder. Everyone, please retreat into the city. This junior will embarrass himself here, said Longchen. Longchen then raised his left hand and a flame lotus appeared. After that, flames were summoned from every corner of the world, and the lotus instantly grew to an enormous size. A terrifying pressure crashed down, twisting heaven and earth. The elder was pleasantly surprised. Not wasting any more time on courteous words, he directly ordered the experts fighting to crush their jade talismans. They were all transported into the city. Just then, the 3 devil generals charged over and Longchen shouted, "World Extermination Flame Lotus." The flame lotus fell, exploding amongst the army of devils. As a result, a giant mushroom cloud soared into the air. At the same time, a ripple spread on the ground. It was a wave of fire that washed across the entire devil army. Now, only the 3 leaders remained on the ground. Their whole bodies were black and they were on their last breaths. It was a thunderous and domineering move that made the experts watching feel fired up. Senior's sword isn't sharp enough. I hope that this sword can help you. Longchen's voice was ringing out from the distance. After that, a cold light flew through the air, piercing through the 3 devil generals' heads and killing them before flying toward that elder's hand. It was a sheathed sword. That meant Longchen had killed those devils with just the sheath. It had to be known that those devils had almost no weaknesses because their only vital part was their heads. Furthermore, their skulls were shockingly tough, and even king items couldn't break through them. That was why so many of them were unable to stop a single half-step world king devil that had almost no divine abilities. The elder then pulled out a few inches of the sword. The sharpness that suddenly came piercing out made his soul shiver. What a treasure! Countless startled cries rang out. That sword's runes hadn't even been activated, but it was already leaking such a sharp air. It was definitely a top-tier sword. Dean Longchen actually gave us this sword. The elder was extremely moved. With this weapon, they shouldn't need to fear similar red-scaled devils. Suddenly, the elder shouted, "Dean Longchen, after this tribulation I, Zhao Yixiang, will personally return this to you. This treasure blade needs a good master." Senior was willing to sacrifice his life for the people, so only a divine weapon of this caliber can match your character. Longchen's voice rang out once more, but it came from so far away that it was a bit indistinct. Dean Longchen is so young but already has such power. He even cares for the common people. Just how many generations has it been since such a figure has appeared in the human race? Sighed an Earth-tier immortal king. Sub. Sub, looking at the ruins outside the city to the 3 corpses of the red-scaled devils. Everyone in the city had worshipful expressions. He had such power but was not arrogantly aloof. Moreover, Longchen didn't just save them from their present predicament, but he even bestowed them with a divine weapon to protect themselves. Thus, all of them were completely won over. At the same time, they felt even greater admiration for the High Firmament Academy. When it was first announced that Longchen had taken up the place of the Dean of the 7th Branch Academy, they had all felt that the High Firmament Academy was playing around too much. Now, they saw that the Academy was truly wise. Clean up the battlefield. The bodies of those devils might be ruined, but their devil cores should still be intact, ordered the elder. As expected, within the black and burnt land, they began to find fist-sized devil cores. That was where the essence of the devils was condensed. After purifying the devil chi, they could be refined into pure energy, so they were very valuable. The Yaohua Prefecture's experts quickly cleaned up the battlefield. However, Long Chen was even more excited than them. He had only slightly tested the World Extermination Flame Lotus, but that slight test already gave it immense power. He hadn't even used the Nirvana scripture, so it could be seen just how much the World Extermination Flame Lotus had improved. The power of the World Extermination Flame Lotus depended on his own control. The greater his power, the greater his control over flame energy. Previously, the World Extermination Flame Lotus's limited power was due to him not being able to control so much power. If it went out of control, it would damage himself. However, after advancing to the Divine Lord realm, even Long Chen himself wasn't sure just how strong he had grown. If he hadn't been surrounded by so many world kings back in the auspicious Cloud Prefecture, he would have definitely fought to his full potential. But there was no way around it back there. He could not challenge a group of world kings yet. However, this devil army wasn't something he was afraid of. He was returning to his home territory in glory, and he was excited to finally have a place to use his power. The High Firmament Academy's barrier had already been activated, and countless devils were attacking it. The Grand Formation was split into 4 layers in total, creating 3 regions. Countless experts were fighting devils in these 3 regions. At the same time, the tablets on their waists were constantly flashing. How many have you got? 97,000. What about you? Fuck, are you intentionally provoking them to you? These experts fighting the devils still had the time to chat as they fought. Their tablets were being used to count their kill points. Once the battle was over, they could exchange the points for treasures. This time, the Academy was giving them luxurious rewards. As long as they continued to kill these devils, they would get the treasures that they dreamed of. Thus, everyone was doing everything they could to kill more devils. Fortunately, there were enough devils that people didn't start fighting over them. These 3 regions were split into those for the 4-peak realm, the Divine Lord realm, and the Immortal King realm. The Academy had used a formation to split the devils according to their realms, so people could choose the battlefield that best suited their power. If Senior Apprentice Brother Long Chen were here, do you think he would enter the Divine Lord battlefield? Asked someone suddenly. Don't call him that. He's the Dean, shouted another person. Boom. Just then, a huge explosion shook all 3 regions, causing everyone to jump. They saw a red devil smash into the barrier like a shooting star. After that, the devil slid off the barrier just like that. It had actually smashed itself to its death. That sight stunned everyone. Just what was going on? When they looked further into the distance, their jaws dropped. Outside the outermost barrier, the red devils were being sent flying one by one. It was as if some even more terrifying life forms had come, sweeping them away. What's going on? Aren't these devils above immortal kings? Exclaimed people. The outermost barrier was specifically to stop the strongest devils from entering. It only permitted those at the Immortal King realm and below to pass through. Outside that barrier, it was a land of absolute death. Even the higher-ups of the Academy were not permitted to set foot there. Sub. Just then, Saber light erupted, sending blood and flesh flying through the air. Those red devils were blown apart one by one, and their blood rained down. Boom. Following that, a flame lotus exploded and a sea of fire erupted. Screams rang out as countless red devils were ignited. That flame lotus, isn't that Senior Apprentice Brother Long Chen's trump card, the World Extermination Flame Lotus? Saber light flashed within the sea of flames, slaughtering those red devils. After that, a black-robed figure with a blood-red saber on his shoulder walked out of the flames. Heavens, it really is Senior Apprentice Brother Long Chen. No, it's Dean Long Chen. When they saw that figure slaughtering the devils with ease, startled cries rang out. It was precisely Long Chen. Long Chen had long since reached the outer edges of the Academy. However, it had taken him almost an hour to slaughter his way over to the barrier. Now, he didn't even know how many of those red devils he had killed. If his sense of direction wasn't so good, he might have gotten lost amongst them. When he saw the barrier, he blessed his fortune that he hadn't gone in the wrong direction. There were even more red devils in front of the barrier, tearing at it. But the barrier was extremely tough. They were unable to get a foothold in it. Hence, when Long Chen appeared, they took out their frustration on him, only for his divine ring to appear. He then slaughtered his way through them just like that. When his saber swung through the air, the red devils collapsed. Putting his saber back on his shoulder, he took a few more steps before swinging his saber again, leaving corpses in his wake. Dean Long Chen is so handsome. Countless female disciples couldn't help shouting their admiration when they saw that sight. Countless Divine Flame and Mortal Transcendence disciples within the academy weren't qualified to set foot on the battlefield, and so they were only watching, gaining experience from it. Some of them joined the academy later, so they had never seen Long Chen. But they had all heard of his name. Now when they saw this major figure whose name had shaken the heavenly swell domain, they were all moved and could only express their feelings by shouting. After reaching the formation, Long Chen directly entered. Quite a few red devils behind him were still pouncing on him, but he ignored them. This barrier was targeting those devils, so the academy's disciples could pass through it easily. Good job. I knew that I didn't misjudge you. A muscular armored expert appeared before Long Chen right as he entered the barrier, laughing. Divine Lightning Elder, it's been a long time. Long Chen recognized this expert. It was the Divine Lightning Elder that had encouraged him not long after he joined the academy. The academy had a heaven, earth, wind, and lightning elder. Back then, Long Chen hadn't been able to see the Divine Lightning Elder's cultivation base. Now, he could tell that the latter was a terrifying immortal king. It was no wonder that the Divine Lightning Elder hadn't placed the Pill Institute in his eyes back then. Long Chen was quite surprised to see him here. He had always remembered the Elder's praise from back then. After seeing him here, sensing his vast blood qi, and hearing the thunder coming from inside his body, it was like the Elder was a wild dragon. He was truly frighteningly powerful. The High Firmament Academy was truly filled with hidden dragons. They had concealed their true power deeply. The Divine Lightning Elder was also excited to see Long Chen. He patted him on the shoulder and even shook him lightly. If Long Chen wasn't strong enough, just this one pat on the shoulder might have smashed him into the ground. Sensing his powerful physical body, the Divine Lightning Elder smiled proudly. I knew that I wouldn't misjudge you. You advanced even faster than I expected. Moreover, you killed those half-step World King's devils as easily as chopping apart vegetables. As expected, the younger generation would surpass the senior generation. Divine Lightning Elder, you are overpraising me, said Long Chen with a bit of embarrassment. Go to the academy and see the dean. This is just a small matter, and it is under control. They probably just want to train the children so that they don't piss themselves when they see the real devils, laughed the Divine Lightning Elder. Hearing that, Long Chen suddenly felt that the situation was not as serious as he had anticipated. He was thinking that with the Divine Lightning Elder's power, killing those red devils should be effortless. It seemed that they had only let themselves be surrounded as a training opportunity for the disciples. The Divine Lightning Elder was actually placed here to oversee things and make sure that the disciples didn't panic. As Long Chen walked through their midst, the disciples ran over to greet him. Long Chen then waved his hands and urged them to focus on killing their enemies. They shouldn't treat this as a game. Their lives didn't just belong to themselves, as they also belonged to the people that cared about them. If they didn't cherish this life, it wouldn't be bravery but complete idiocy. At first, Long Chen was quite pleased. But when he spoke of life and death, his expression grew colder. These disciples were not true warriors. Many of them were still spoiled and pampered. If he didn't give them a stern knocking down, they could easily lose their lives in a moment of carelessness on the battlefield. This stern side instantly made those disciples fight seriously. It was far more effective than even the harshest of warnings from the elders or instructors. Once Long Chen was past the barriers, All the new disciples in the Divine Flame realm and Mortal Transcendence realm had no misgivings at all and waved at him. Long Chen waved back, and an elder brought him to see the dean. When he was introduced to the dean, he was startled. Only now did Long Chen learn that the ordinary elder who had been clearing the books in the Divine Scripture Pavilion was actually the dean. He was also Bai Xiaola and Bai Shishir's grandfather, Bai Letian. Sub. Seeing his shocked appearance, Bai Letian laughed. What? Are you very surprised, Dean? Dean, don't call me like that please. I feel like I can't live up to that title. Just call me Long Chen or it will make me feel strange, said Long Chen. Although he was also the dean, he never really viewed himself as one. That title was just for him to play around with. Then I won't stand on courtesy. In private, I will just call you by your name. Bai Letian nodded. He then became serious. Let me tell you our opponent's goal this time. It isn't the main academy but your 7th branch academy. Furthermore, the 7th branch academy is already surrounded by 3 major forces and is in a critical state. 3 major powers? Who are they? Demanded Long Chen angrily. So many powers were targeting him. One is the Devil's Sea, and the second one is the devils from outside the immortal world. The last one is the Undying Race's Devil Eye Water Lilies, said Bai Letian. The Undying Race has also come? Long Chen was startled. He really did feel a bit of worry when it came to this race. They were truly difficult to deal with. Thus, Zhang Tong and the others have gone to reinforce the 7th branch academy. Their real goal is that side, said Bai Letian. After a moment's hesitation, Long Chen couldn't help asking, Dean, I want to ask you. Was this done by Lord Brahma? Most things related to Lord Brahma were taboo in the academy. Everyone who knew about him kept it a secret, but Long Chen really couldn't help asking. He felt that this was definitely done by Lord Brahma. Bai Letian smiled. It can be said that it was and it wasn't. What does that mean? With Lord Brahma's intellect, he wouldn't make such a childish move. For them to be in such a rush to destroy the 7th branch academy, they have essentially revealed the powers that Lord Brahma controls. No matter what, Lord Brahma is from the immortal world. Even if some people do know some of the old secrets, they don't mention them to others. On the surface, Lord Brahma appears to be a powerful overlord of the immortal world with absolute authority. He wouldn't let others know that he can control the other forces. Long Chen came to a sudden understanding. You mean to say that it was done by those dog-headed generals underneath Lord Brahma? In other words, they panicked once we took back the 7th branch academy, and they directly communicated with those powers without discussing it with Lord Brahma first? Bai Letian nodded. Dog-headed generals is an appropriate description for them. Only fools would act so openly and directly. Lord Brahma and Fallen Day Knight are in seclusion, so everything is done by their subordinates, disciples, and disciples of their disciples. Based on our understanding, there are only a few people with this kind of authority amongst Lord Brahma's subordinates. A crafty old fellow like Enmity is always meticulous. He likes to scheme things through without leaving any evidence of his actions, so this definitely wasn't done by him. My personal guess is that it was done by the 9 Underworld Hall's master, Liao Bensong. Although he is an assassin, he has an explosive temper, and his head isn't that bright. He has always been at odds with Enmity. Although Enmity appears to be suppressed by him on the surface, with the difference in brains, there's no way he can outplay Enmity. Enmity simply knows how to endure. Taking back the 7th branch academy caused them to panic. For such a major thing to occur while Lord Brahma is in seclusion, they wanted to quickly fix it. But once wood has been turned into a boat, it cannot be turned back. They are willing to pay any price to destroy the 7th branch academy before Lord Brahma comes out of seclusion. The mastermind is probably Liao Bensong, and if my guess is right, Enmity will have argued with him and then lost the argument on purpose. That way, if Liao Bensong does succeed, nothing bad will happen to Enmity. And if Liao Bensong fails, he will have a way to escape his sins. Long Chen nodded. Enmity was truly a schemer, and such a forceful play was unlike him. This must have been done by Liao Bensong. However, Who would have thought that a person with such a foolish head would be an assassin under Lord Brahma? Was there no one else he could find? Furthermore, based on Bai Lishan's tone, he didn't particularly care about Imputa and the others' attack. Dean, what is their goal in this battle? It is meaningless, no? Asked Long Chen. Even after gathering 3 major powers, they were unable to break the Academy's barrier. Then what was the point? Bai Ledian smiled slightly. Attrition. Long Chen instantly understood. It seemed that they were playing just who had more ammo. They were competing in terms of manpower, physical resources, and financial power. This kind of attrition might not have any effect for 1 or 2 months. But what about after 3 or 5 years? Or 30 or 50 years? The High Firmament Academy was said to have declined, so they definitely couldn't beat Lord Brahma in terms of manpower, physical resources, or financial power. Although this was a simple play, it was quite effective. It was just that they had neglected to consider one aspect. That was that whether it was the devil crystals of the devils, the demonic cores of the sea demons, or the corpses of the devil eye water lilies, they were all very valuable. After they were killed, their corpses could be traded for immense wealth. If the fighters were strong enough and kept the casualties within a certain range, they would actually profit. Furthermore, they were backed by Zheng Wenlong. These demonic cores, devil crystals, and so on could be rapidly sold and turned into useful materials. They wanted to compete in a battle of attrition? Then they could compete to their heart's content. Seeing that disdainful smile, Bai Ledian also smiled. It seems that you are already prepared. Calm, hee, it can't count as preparations. I've just made some small fortune during this time, and it should be able to help with our current predicament, said Long Chen. Only then did Bai Ledian have a chance to ask Long Chen about what had happened after he fell for Imputa's scheme. Long Chen told the dean a bit about how he had entered the netherworld. After breaking through the void, he appeared in the integral heaven star field, coincidentally running into the opening of their divine lord Immortal realm. He didn't bother concealing anything about the integral heaven star field. Hearing all this, Bai Ledian was stunned, but he also found it comical. You turned a disaster into a blessing. Even the protector spirit of the integral heaven star field has helped you. Since you've gained so much wealth, I won't be so courteous with you. In the future, the expenses of your 7th branch academy will have to be paid by yourself. Originally, with the 7th branch academy under siege, the main academy was paying close to 1,000 immortal king crystals every day just to maintain the barrier. As for the medicinal pills, damaged weapons, and other fees, they were all paid by the battle. Since Long Chen had money, Bai Ledian was quite direct. He could pay for himself. Calm Long Chen laughed. Now he understood what it meant for riches to lead to domineeringness. With money, he could stand tall. Dean, do you think it's possible to draw out Lord Brahma's subordinates and end them? Long Chen made a throat-cutting gesture. Bai Ledian was startled and then laughed. I know that your current power can challenge ordinary world kings. But you don't know the differences between world kings. Let us not speak of the differences between early, mid, and late-stage world kings. The likes of Imputa and Liao Bensong have countless believers, so they have an enormous amount of faith energy. World kings like them have power that exceeds your imagination. Do not compare them to the world kings of the demonic beast races. Although Long Chen also knew that Imputa wasn't an ordinary world king, he hadn't expected Bai Ledian to give him such a response. His heart then turned a bit cold. However, he forced out a smile. I can't, but what about the academy? You definitely have the power to kill them, no? Hee. Bai Ledian simply laughed and didn't reply. Long Chen knew that this old fellow wouldn't tell him the truth. The academy had truly hidden itself deeply. The heaven, earth, wind, and lightning elders were extremely terrifying. The divine lightning elder was ranked last amongst them, so the other 3 must be even more terrifying. But if the dean refused to tell him, Long Chen could only let it be. In the end, when Long Chen prepared to return to the 7th branch academy, Bai Ledian warned him, if you have the ability, then go ahead and show it. As long as you don't randomly run around, the academy will definitely protect you. Hearing that Long Chen was at ease, he excitedly stepped on the transportation formation. Chapter 3446 Divine Object of the Primal Chaos Era. Calm. The sound of a broom sweeping lightly across the ground rang out, along with the crinkling of some leaves being swept. No matter how great the vitality of a tree, no matter how long it could live without changing, its leaves would still be constantly replaced. If more leaves were growing, then more leaves had to fall. It was a cycle that went around and around. Perhaps this was also another kind of interpretation of life. The sound of the devils and screams of slaughter were loud, but the sweeping elder didn't seem to hear them. He was focused entirely on sweeping. It seemed that even if the heavens were to collapse, it wouldn't hinder his sweeping. Senior. Byletian arrived and bowed respectfully to the sweeping elder. What is it? What problem have you encountered? The elder still had his head down as he continued sweeping. He spoke very casually. Long Chen has returned. He concealed what he had experienced, said Byletian somewhat solemnly. And then, asked the sweeping elder. The high firmament divine sword sensed an aura on Long Chen that made it uneasy, said Byletian. Oh. The sweeping elder was finally moved. He stopped sweeping, a trace of astonishment appearing in his turbid eyes. Something that could make the high firmament divine sword uneasy? Most likely, only those divine objects from the Primal Chaos era could cause such a thing. Did the high firmament divine sword say where this uneasy aura came from? No. It wasn't on Long Chen, but Long Chen has been stained by its aura. The high firmament divine sword is unable to tell what exactly it is. Now that Long Chen is getting stronger and stronger, I am worried. You are worried that Long Chen is a double-sided sword? He has powerful enemies outside and a heart devil inside. You fear he will walk down the evil path? Asked the sweeping elder. Byletian nodded. This time, Long Chen's aura was completely different from before. He seemed like a sealed devil lord slowly breaking free from his seal bit by bit, revealing a sharp and dangerous light. Don't be so afraid. Long Chen is a 9-star heir, and he is also different from other 9-star heirs. He is a divergent, he is a heaven defier, he is a game breaker. If he becomes an immortal, good. If he becomes a devil, fine. This deadlock of the 9 heavens and 10 lands requires someone with extraordinary means to break free. Who cares what method he uses? If you use someone, do not doubt them. If you doubt someone, then don't use them. Your guts are shrinking more and more. This is no good. When Zhantong becomes a world king, you should abdicate your position to him. The elder shook his head, and he once more started sweeping. Senior, how can that be? That little fellow is far too hot-headed. Byletian jumped in shock. He understood his son well. When his head got hot, he didn't care about anything else. How could Byletian possibly entrust the academy to him? It's just a joke. Don't take it seriously, laughed the sweeping elder. Byletian rolled his eyes. After knowing this sweeping elder for so many years, he had never been so casual. So, for him to suddenly make a joke, Byletian was caught off guard. Do you know? When I chatted with Long Chen before this, he said something that moved me greatly. The elder suddenly paused and sat on the ground. Byletian also quickly sat and asked, What did he say? The sweeping elder shook his head. These weren't his words but the words that his adoptive father told him. Pigs run forward, chicks run back. Birds don't even pee. Thus, every person has their own Tao. Byletian was left dumbfounded. He had expected something profound. But the sweeping elder's serious expression didn't seem to be that of someone joking around. The elder smiled. In truth, many profound principles are contained within somewhat vulgar words. The lives of mortals are over in a flash. A person may not even live to 100, but the principles they comprehend during this time are quite shocking if you carefully examine them. On the surface, every single day, cultivators are comprehending the heavenly Taos, grasping the profundities of the world, cultivating magical arts, training divine abilities, extending their lifespans, and flying through the air. In the eyes of mortals, we are omniscient, omnipotent. But in reality, just how much of the heavenly Taos can we truly comprehend? Well, Byletian couldn't reply. Even after cultivating to his realm, He wasn't able to give a precise definition of the heavenly Taos. Furthermore, his cultivation was done by standing on the shoulders of those who had come before him. His cultivation path was cleared by his predecessors, and this was true for all of them. They could just close their eyes and walk down this set path. Thus, no matter what life form it is, they have their own special means to live. It can be considered the path that the heavenly Taos gave them. This is true of every person, but Long Chen has his own Tao. His Tao is unique, and his path is one that defies the heavens, changing his fate. For him to come to our High Firmament Academy, there are some things that are set by fate. You don't need to think about how to help him, nor should you treat him like a child, requiring him to get your consent for every little matter. Give him his freedom. Yes. Bailetian respectfully bowed his head. Seeing the elder pick up his broom, he left. Just after Bailetian left, the image of a sword silently appeared in front of the elder. The elder looked at that sword image. Do not tell Letian about these kinds of things. That is the aura of a divine item from the Primal Chaos era. If Letian learns too much, it will infect him with karma. If his life isn't tough enough, he will lose it. The sword image quivered slightly as if nodding. The elder stared at the sword image. The two of them seemed to be communicating. After a moment, the elder narrowed his eyes. The aura of the netherworld. Then it should be it. Even the divine objects of the Primal Chaos era have appeared. The 9 heavens and 10 lands are definitely about to enter a great era. All kinds of monsters will be appearing one after another. I wonder if these old bones of mine will be able to deal with them? The elder shook his head slightly before lowering his head and continuing to sweep. The transportation formation lit up and Long Chen walked out of it. After that, countless startled cries rang out. Before he could even see anything, a burst of fragrance struck Long Chen, and a soft body crashed into him. Bai Shishir hugged him tightly. I knew that a scoundrel like you wouldn't die. Long Chen was startled. The countless disciples around the transportation formation were also startled. As for Bai Zhantong, he froze. Only Bai Shishir's mother and Bai Xiaola's mother exchanged a look and smiled. Long Chen saw countless experts in the surroundings, vigilantly guarding against the unexpected. For Bai Shishir to hug him like this in front of them, even he felt a bit odd. Only then did Bai Shishir react. Her face was as red as an apple. She then viciously punched him, covered her face, and fled. Boss. Once Bai Shishir left, Bai Xiaola, Qin Feng, Qi Yu, and Su Zixiong surrounded him excitedly. Ever since Long Chen had vanished within the spatial channel, their hearts had been clenched in worry. Now that he was back, they shouted in excitement. Boss, you even advanced to the Divine Lord realm? Qin Feng was shocked. Long Chen had actually advanced first. No way. Boss, how could you do that? We were waiting to undergo tribulation with you. Cried Bai Xiaola disappointedly. They had long since reached the point of being able to advance to the Divine Lord realm, but in order to obtain the most benefits from the heavenly tribulation, they were waiting to go through it with Long Chen. No worry. Gather everyone. I'll bring you through your tribulation. Long Chen waved his hand heroically. Just then, the grand formation of the 7th Branch Academy rumbled. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.